like to welcome live stream and all of you. I hope you had an amazing lunch. I'm happy you are back. We have an incredible lineup. We're going to start with Yana. And then we are going to move into Christopher. And then we're going to do worship. And when we come to the time for the offering, I will have either my husband or Lynn on my product table over there. If you want to use a card or wherever my husband decides to be, you can swipe a card to my nonprofit, Alive in the Kingdom, and pay with a credit, give with a credit card into the offering. That's totally fine. Also, if you're writing a check, make it out to Alive in the Kingdom. We will send you a receipt. All righty. Okay, y'all figure that out. Live stream is rolling. So I would love for y'all to finish up your product purchases and come join us. Thank you for your patience, live stream. I gave them an extra 30 minutes and we are now pressing past it.
And it spins, which is really bad.
Hey, Lorcy. Y'all are the best. I'm telling you. Y'all, just so you know, I'm cold again. I'm back to me. Yesterday, I really did think, what is wrong with me? Now we know. When I stayed up most of the night. All righty. Y'all welcome Yana.
I'm so grateful to be here with you. Mary Haas has a beloved friend. She and Rich have opened their home to all of us, and the work that goes into doing something like this is just a lot. And so they haven't just opened their home, they've crossed every T, dotted every I. Made it comfortable for you, made it easy for you, made it easy for us. And so to Rich and Mary Haas, thank you, thank you, thank you. I just want to say thank you again. It's so important to do. When I started, in the Jewish world, we do conferences, we do them different. We don't call them conferences, we call them gatherings, and they're a bit more, they're somewhat different. And so when I came into this world, Benita and Joanne schooled me. They had a lot of schooling to do. Can you imagine? And I said, well, one thing, and I observed a number of conferences, and one thing that always bothered me was the lack of gratitude that was spoken when someone quoted someone else's works or took their theologies and used them and talked about them. They didn't give credit to the one that they took it from, nor did they say thank you to the people that poured into their life so that they could be standing here. And so I'm standing here with you. I get the privilege of being with you because of, first and foremost, Joanne McFadder and Benita Blakeman. You never forget where you came from. And one of the things that we as Jews are good at, we remember. So, thank you to them and Benita. Every kind word that's said to me is a fruit that there I'm saying, you're standing right here, and I'm handing it to you as you hand it to the Lord, to the Father. It's fruit. It's your fruit. And that's just the truth. It's not my fruit. It's the fruit of those who loved me and fed me. And then they handed me to Nancy Cohen. And it has been 3 glorious years. Now, she was much taller. Her hair was curly when I met her. No, I'm kidding. And I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today also without the love and devotion of a glorious woman who has stood in the face of all the bad things that we think about and has loved them into life. And we're a strong people. Jews are strong people. And it takes someone who is more strong to do the work to get us to the point where we're, can be around other humans. I don't know how else to say that. I only got my foot stepped on once today, so I'm doing pretty good. I make comments sometimes when the teaching is going on. That's another thing. When we have a community, we interact with each other. We don't just talk at the people and you have to sit there and, by God, if you have a question, don't ask. I mean, that is the weirdest thing, I just got to say. It's not really valuing the people. So I'm not a real component. As a matter of fact, Mary is the only one that has allowed me. We had a small conference in some month, May, to put the chairs in a circle, a semicircle, so that we could face each other, because that's what we do in synagogues. We have it so that we can look, except for the modern ones, but who cares about that stuff, And Nancy has faced me, interfaced with me, burped me, changed my diapers. I threw up all over her. She just changed clothes and went at it again with me. And I'm saying that to say that she saw a purpose and a reason. Because this woman she does give just to give, but she doesn't open up her home and her heart and her life just to do it. She's too valuable. She's too important. She's run too big a race to slow down now. And if you've ever tried to keep up with Nancy Cohen, let me just tell you right now, right here, you cannot. It cannot be done. Even the Lord runs after Nancy Cohen. So Nancy, I adore you and love you, and I'm grateful for you every day. And for my beautiful, lifelong, beloved friend Shannon, and allowing me to be part of your family and loving you and knowing you. It's been one of the greatest friendships I've ever had. And I'm grateful to you. And how about that Darla Fields? I want to take full credit for her because okay, it just feels good to laugh about it because it's so not true. I did have fun when I met Darla, though. She was this Pentecostal pastor, and because I wasn't raised in the church, but I knew about the church. I mean, I didn't know y'all kind of people. I'd have been a lot nicer person had I had. But I knew that other kind of people. And so when we were in Israel, it was my suggestion that Darla get on that Shabbat elevator and, go on up to the room. And when we arrived in Jerusalem that first night, it was Shabbat, and she sat down at a table, and I said, well, you're in my country now, so give me that bottle of wine. And so she looked at me, and I said, what, you don't drink? And she said, well, no. And I said, oh, my God. And I opened up the bottle, I poured a glass, I went, gulp. I poured another one, and she's just looking at me. Because she was such a nice person. I'd already called her a liar when I met her, because it was a group of pastors. You pay $900, you get a 5-star trip to Israel with the understanding you're going to bring other people with you. And she was sitting in the audience with all these men, and I had someone that was working with me, and I said, you see that lady? You go find out why she's sitting there. So she goes over and she says, excuse me, ma'am, are you a pastor? Darla says, yes, I am. She comes back, and I said, that's a doggone liar if I ever saw one. So I said, watch this, follow me. I'm going to show you how to do this. I went over to Darla and I said, you say you're a pastor. Are you the senior pastor? Or are you the children's pastor? Are you the... Yeah, really. That's what I was told. Women are half a human, right? They're stupid. They can only cook and teach children. I mean, that's what... Or be missionaries, of course, with the headhunters. Not like in London or Paris, you know. So I said, no, for real. So there's another person who's a pastor with you? She's just going, no. And so I said, are you lying to me? Right in her face. She's like, and she said, why are you asking? And I said, okay, sorry. I'm just going to say it, okay? Everybody hang on. You're not extremely overweight. You have makeup on, and you don't have a bun back then. There's no way you can be a Pentecostal woman pastor. Some of you are highly offended, and I'm relieved because that would happen later in the message, so I thought I'd just get it over with now. Somebody needs to after I act so bad. A hug works better than a spanking, I'm telling you. I am so grateful to Christopher Carter. I made my career. I taught in academia for a long time. I taught at the cemetery. You know it as a seminary. I always like to say the place you go to lose your faith and gain your reason. Yeah. And your logic and your reason. And my primary that I was known for was this class called Hellenism, Judaism, and Christianity. Now, that's a fancy way to say the Greek way of life, the Jewish way of life, and then the biblical way of life, how they're alike and how they're not. And I was known as an anti-Hellenist. Anything that came out of Greece, I used to show how the church has conformed more to the Greco-Roman lifestyle than the biblical lifestyle. I was good at it. And then I met a Hellenist. That man back there, Christopher Carter. But he wasn't that kind of Hellenist. He knows his literature. He understands. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm going to have to love myself after this. He understands Socratic reasoning. He understands logic and rhetoric. He understands Homer, Plato, and on and on and on. And he has good character. And his character is better than his teachings. That's another thing. I will not walk with someone. I'll be nice and good to them, kind of. I work at it. Nice and good to them. whose character is not so good, but I will not walk closely with someone whose character is not biblical, really biblical. And I can say that man's character is better than his teachings. Yeah, I've said that twice in my life. Twice. And he's a Hellenist. Well, you can bet that got my attention. Because what he's teaching is something that I'm not aware of exists in the world. It is the righteous side of the transition that happened from the biblical world to the Greco-Roman world, and he pulled the good out of it. Just like the Lord does with you and me. I'm like, I hate that you're so right. Because I'm right. I come from the biblical world. Yeah, well, it sounds good. So, other than that, saying all those wonderful things about Christopher Carter, he does have some funny little things, you know? Have you noticed some of the funny little things? How come Christopher gets to poke you right in the nose and then you think he's cute? And I do it, and people are like, oh, man. So I've been studying Christopher Carter so I can learn how to say, well, here I am. I'm studied, and I've got a couple of thousand books. And I've written, rewritten the whole code for Hellenistic understanding of the biblical world from a righteous point of view. But I could be wrong. It's a thought I've never had. It sounds like a foreign form of Latin, which I may be a little scared that he speaks too. When Christopher Carter is sitting at the table and he's listening to you and his head is turned a little bit to this side and, you're in trouble. Let me tell you, everything you just said is about to be shown in the light of heaven. But it's glorious, isn't it? Whoever thought that it's true in reality that your ascended self, your heavenly self, is alive and functioning. Your resurrected self, if I can quote your words, is alive and real and active and wanting and necessary to play a very active role in your present earthly life. Okay, I'm working on it. I very much appreciate you, Christopher Carter. I appreciate all of you who are in Hebrew Scrolls Academy. If you're here, would you just raise your hand? Hebrew Scrolls Academy is a school that Darla and I have where these things that we talked about here you can learn. And if you're interested in that, you can go to HebrewScrollsAcademy.com, whatever. I don't mean whatever. It's a good school. It really is. It gives you a good ground, whatever. I kind of sound like Christopher Carter. Yeah, if you want to, do it. And if you don't, it's okay too. I am not Christopher Carter. You should go there. All right, let's move on. I'm grateful for my sweet friends, Dale Shannon, who also was there to help me through a difficult time in my transition, and for Sandy and for Katie and Camille, my beautiful friend that I love so much. And so many of you, if I don't call your name out, please don't feel offended. I just want to get on with the message, and you all want me to too. This word has come under an attack from the rationalists and from the mystics. And it is your Bible. That's right. It is. See, it's terrible to be my friend because you never know when I'm going to get a picture and put it up there and use it for a good point, sometimes not. You'll see later what I mean, okay? But if we, in our mature state, lose our first love, and we're more mystified by mysticism, if I'm more in love with my revelation than I am with the revelator, I've missed the whole point. And if I love him, this will be my life. This sacred, holy word. Now, I know better than a lot the flaws of English in this word. I know the additions and the subtractions. I know the mistranslations. And I'm telling you, this remains holy and alive. Holy doesn't mean just woo. It's not a woo-woo holy. Holy means there's nothing that can be compared to it. Nothing can be compared to this. Not the Apocrypha, not the Nag Hammadi scriptures, not the ones they took out, and yes, they took them out. Read them and know them. Great, wonderful. But this thing that you hold in your hand is your lifeline. If you move from it, you've just done the same thing that Hasatan did in heaven. Oh, I can be God. I can think beyond what Yahweh has communicated to me, what Yahweh has chosen for me to know about him. I can go beyond that. And when you move beyond the word, you lose your love for the word because the word becomes quiet and it breaks the heart of the living word. Come back to the word. If it's dull to you, it's because your heart is dull. And you're living from your mind more than you are from your heart. The Melchizedek priesthood is willing to give their life for this word. We'll argue, we'll use bad words, we'll do anything we need to defend this word. I know it sounds kind of like an oxymoron, but just go with me on it, okay? We will defend this word because our ancestors gave their lives for it. I really don't need anything, and yes, have I read it? I got lots of letters after my name. They don't hand out the degrees that I have. I use them to understand. I live in this to know and be. It is the word. You go into a synagogue and you pick up a biblical text. Do you know what will happen if you put it on the floor? Well, yeah, but it's not quite that nice. They will come and stand by you and look at you like, oh my God. They will reach down, they will clean it, they will kiss it and hand it back to you. And you will understand, don't you ever put that on the ground again. You see, what we have to bring to you is a true understanding, a living understanding of holiness and fear of the Lord. I'm not scared of him, but I fear the Lord. You know what I'm saying? A love and awe and respect. So this order of Melchizedek, this 10% tithe, this group of you all, this Israel of you all, they are known because this is their lifeline. They love it. It doesn't matter how smart or how unsmart they are. This is their lifeline. They read it. They meditate in it day and night. When I'm sitting there and I'm davening, I am hearing scripture. I was nursed at the breast of Torah. It fed me. It sustains me. It's in everything that I think. I can never, I'm wrapped up. I'm in a Merkava of Torah. It lives, it spins, it breathes, it counsels me. It shows me when I shouldn't have said what I just said. All those kinds of things. And without it, I am nothing. That's what the Melchizedek priesthood understands. As a priest, our number one responsibility is to the Lord, and we do that through this holy word. Everybody good with that? So this is what we do. This was my happy moment. There's a couple of bookstores in Jerusalem that I go to, and Darla and I, as soon as the tour is over or before, we shoo everyone away, and then we go to the bookstore. OMG, it is the best moment ever. No, but I'll tell you where to go. And you can see that was my purchase that day. I'm making my way to the cash register. Darla gave me a budget because she knows that I don't know what that word means. That's another Latin word that doesn't have any meaning whatsoever in English language. But we take responsibility for our growth and maturity. In other words, we're not dependent on somebody else to tell us what the word says. Not even me, not Darla, not Mr. Carter, not Nancy Cohen, not anybody. We sit with each other to have what has already been breathed within us opened up to another dimension and greater level, to remind us what we know. The one new man is the fullness of the Gentiles. It is Israel. And we're in the day where that 13th tribe, because Adonai promised it, he said Manasseh and Ephraim would each be a tribe as Shimon and Yehuda are. Until now, Ephraim and Manasseh have been one tribe, the tribe of Joseph, because there hasn't been the 10% offering of the Melchizedek priesthood who've agreed. There's people that have wanted the position because they think it's going to be really fun in the days ahead. Well, for some of those weirdos, it might be a little fun, which is kind of sick, but don't worry. But you will want more than a position. You want the show of your life. I have someone in my life that from time to time, the Lord puts people in my life that I am like a mother to. And I tell them all the time, I don't want a title. I want to be that. It's not just a title. And I think some of you are way beyond wanting another title. And so you're willing to not be known by a title. When I hear someone handing out cards or advertising themselves as prophet, prophetess, blee-da-blah, blee-da-blay, whatever, I will have nothing to do with that. They may function as that, but Yeshua said this. Yeshua said this. If I bear witness of myself, read it. How does it go? Do any of y'all know that? My witness is not true. Let another bear witness of me. Now, I can call Nancy things. Have you ever heard Nancy stand up and say, now, I am a prophetess in this era. Here I am. Because if she did, her witness would be untrue unless the word is wrong. These people, this 10% Melchizedek order, just wants to be known by their name. Kim, Tanya, Linda. Good enough for Yeshua, good enough for us. Don't try to prove yourself as something. Be so good at not being something that when you become all that, your ego doesn't overtake you and you lose your reward. Well, moving right along to a nicer moment. I want to talk about, okay, let me just get a drink of water here. It is water, I promise. Mountain water, that's a little scary. There's no telling what's in, you're a woo-woo. I don't know what's in that water. That'll make me do all kinds of things. Frank, you're awesome. The one new man, Israel, the 13th tribe, is made up of 3 groups of people. In these days that Christians called end days, I don't know, we don't really call them that. we call it a period of tikkun ha'olam, when the world is one and the Messiah has gathered us all together like David did when the kingdom was united under David. Well, that was something, but this is something even greater, united as one under Messiah. There's only 3 groups. All of you are one of those 3. Now remember, I just set it up by saying don't take on a title. But you are, if someone has to tell you what you are, do not believe them. They are liars. You have to know it from heaven, confirmed through the word. That's called maturity, right? So you are either a survivor, you're a martyr, or you're one of the 144,000. And you've known it all your life, or most of your faith life. But no one's going to come up to you and confirm that, and they shouldn't. Now, of all those groups, you want to be the martyr. To be a survivor is the most difficult of all, because that means you'll see it all. And all you got to do is turn to the back of that Bible and start reading about the things you're going to see and walk through. Will you be able to do it? Not if this isn't within you. Not if you've set yourself up to be some name in the earth. I won't go through that list. Let me just move on. Okay. I like this next slide. One of my favorite people on earth. Survivors and Zion. The Melchizedek priesthood, this 13th tribe, this Israel group, is also known, first of all, their love. Of course, it's a given, their love for the Lord first, right? I don't have to say that, right? Everybody gets that? Everybody knows that? Good. Second is the word. Third is their love for Zion. They love Zion. They love Israel. They love the covenant land of Israel. It's not a place over there that deserves God's judgment. Well, we get to jump out of here, go to the pie in the sky while the Jews burn again. That's what I was told. We're going to get raptured. And how many times was I told I was going to hell? I thought hell was becoming a friend. I was told so much. And then I thought I'd tell them, see how they like that. And then I read that New Testament. If you slap, you got to slap back. No, you got to turn the cheek. That's right. I'm practicing. So 2 Kings 19:31 says, "For out of Jerusalem shall go a remnant." And out of where? A band of survivors, a group of survivors. So if you're a survivor, you've either had a unique draw to Mount Zion in your heart, in your life, or it's beginning to be there. And you are feeling something deep, a deep connection with Zion within you. Zion is a place. You look at it, and this is the way the biblical world is. It's just a bunch of rocks and dirt. Or is it? Love that. Reading from Joel. Can you come help me, Shannon? Joel chapter 2 about survivors, verse 32, and Yeshayahu 37:32. Thank you. Joel 2:32, "For in Har Sion, Mount Zion, and in Jerusalem, there shall be those who escape. As the Lord has said, among the survivors shall be those whom the Lord calls." Isaiah 37:32 says, "For out of Jerusalem shall go," it's the same thing. It's the same one as 1 Kings. "Shall go a remnant, and out of Mount Zion a band of survivors." Was that another one? Someone said something? Did I read the wrong scripture? No? Good. Martyrs, let's talk about you. You happy people, you. Nancy's practiced it so well. How many people have tried to take her life? You can hear those stories. You can ask her about them. They're important. And every one of them was necessary for her training. Not for them, for her training. Yeah, it benefited them too, but it was for her training. I can tell you the times that Darla and myself have faced death are too many to count. Again, I told you I've survived a number of terrorist attacks. One of them was really, really, really bad. It was a bombing. We were by ourselves walking among Israeli civilization. It was not a tour. Let me just tell you this. There's a rule in the land of Israel. No tourists are touched, because the ones that do the things like that are dependent upon our money, and we won't come and buy in their shops if they're killing us, right? So they're only after Israelis. They're not after you and me. I'm used to be an Israeli. I don't know what I am now. I just am. I don't know. Something. I'm the wandering Jew. That's what I am. I camp with Benita, and then I move to Nancy, and then I go to Shannon. Oh, Darla found me too. Thank you, God. Okay. The martyrs. Revelation 6, 9 through 11. When the Lamb broke the sixth seal, it's important, I saw underneath the altar the souls of those who had been put to death for proclaiming Devar Adonai, the word of God, that is for bearing witness. They cried in a loud, sovereign voice. They cried in a loud voice, "Sovereign ruler, HaKodesh, the true one, how long will it be before you judge the people living on the earth and avenge our blood?" Each of them was given a white robe, and they were told to wait a little longer until the full number of the fellow servants could be reached of their brothers who would be martyred, just as they had been. In those days, there will be those who are in this room who are martyred for this. I was on a Zoom call a couple of weeks ago, and sometimes we just have one too many Zoom calls, right? And I was davening because I sometimes have to move my energy. Davening is, it's a bowing. I don't have time to go into all that. It's important. We just do it instinctively. I'll always do it. It is a connection with Adonai. It's called reaching the state of kavanah, of complete alignment. And his heart is moving in my heart. And if that's true, your body will move. You know what I'm saying? So as I'm doing that and looking at my city there and my being in that city there, this Zoom call was going on and on and on, and I just could hear this, you know how that goes? So I just started singing as I do on the inside, Ke ayal tararo alafi ki maim alafi ke maim. How long, O Lord, how long? It is the song of the martyrs. Now, I don't think the Lord laughed at all, but the people got quiet and were listening to me. And I said, well, I think it's time for us to go now. And by the way, what were you singing? I'm not telling you nothing. Just forget it. You call it singing in tongues. We call it singing the truth. I don't know. The 144,000, this freaky group of people from the book of Revelation, 7, verse 4. And I heard the number of the sealed, 144,000, from every tribe of the sons of Israel. Revelation 14, 1 and 3. And then I looked, and behold, on where? Oh, you don't have it up there. Mount Zion stood the Lamb. Oh, I don't need to go to Mount Zion. I can just go in my prayer closet. Do you even know what a prayer closet really is? Oh. Do I have anybody that wants to model that? Darla? She was hoping I wouldn't, so I did. When Paul talks about prayer closet, when it talks about wedding garments, this is what it is. Now watch this. This is what we do every morning. We go into our prayer closet. You can go to the Cotel, the Western Wall, and see it. And you are invisible. You leave this world and you are in that world. This is the prayer closet. And the people that tell you, don't use your tallit, I just want to take the seat and hit them with it. You know, the whip. That's the whip that Yeshua used when he drove the people out of the temple. It is your wedding garment. It is your prayer closet. Oh, my. And the Lamb stood there. Let's see. On Mount Zion stood the Lamb, and with him, the 144,000 who had his name and the Father's name written where? On their foreheads. Revelation 14:3. Everybody's going. And they were singing a new song before the throne and before the four living creatures and before the elders. No one could learn that song except for the 144,000 who had been redeemed from the earth. Now, if you go around telling people, I am one of the 144,000, bow down and honor me. You're not even close to Joseph, let me tell you. Don't do it. You'll have gone through all of this, and you'll just wind up with the 60-fold. You'll get in heaven. You'll have a nice life. It'll be good for you. You'll be singing with the angels, but you don't have the character to take this yoke on you. Now, there's this thing that Christian theology has done, and that's separate men and women. And how many people have have said, well, that's all men? Okay, I'm going to say something that's a little blunt, it's a little difficult. I'm going to get in trouble, but I kind of don't care because, yeah, it doesn't matter. Kind of does matter a little bit, maybe. There's this big dude up here looking at me like he's going to get me if I'm bad. No, I'm kidding. He's a sweet guy. When did Yahweh start preferring body parts over hearts? Oh, there's a bump here instead of there, so I'll pick that one. I mean, that's what you're saying. That this here qualifies you more than this here. Am Israel, Am Israel, Am Israel, Chai. Okay, yeah. Do you see how absurd that is? There will be people who will say those women taught that message and therefore they're qualified, and they'll go to Timothy. You know Timothy. And they'll open the Bible and they will pretend to read. And they'll say, see, it says right here, I do not permit that woman to speak. Now, I know you all got out of first grade. But that woman, now, when they say that woman, and you can look in the Greek, that's what it says. How many women is he talking about? One. And do you know why? No, because you don't know your history. You don't know what happened there. But students like myself who go there in that exact place and study and read some very old, dusty documents, see what it says. There was a woman, because in ancient Greece, women had the higher positions in spiritual life. If you've ever heard of the oracles of Delphi, they were just freaky women. They would get in the spirit and sing in the spirit, not Holy Spirit, in the spirit swing, and they would work themselves up to a frenzy. They would get rabbits and they would pull the skin off of a rabbit, and people would pay thousands of dollars to go in and get a word from these oracles of Delphi. Thousands of dollars. They didn't pay thousands. They paid a lot of money to go in and get a word, paid for a word from this person who was in this frenzy, who could see things in the future and tell them their future. And so the women in ancient Greece ran the spiritual culture. And this woman found faith, came to faith in Messiah Yeshua. But she refused to learn how to walk with the Lord. She kept all of her Greco-Roman spiritual practices, and she would go into these communities, into these homes, and into these amphitheaters and teach, and she was still teaching pagan truths, but just calling on the name of the Lord. So Paul says, I do not permit that woman to teach. I know that those words are big words. And it's hard to tell the difference between singular and plural. Is woman singular or plural? And it doesn't really matter. Truth can come from a donkey. See, I was nice. I didn't say that. Because a donkey can talk. And so can the trees, and the water, and the rocks, and the clouds, and the weather systems, and the barometric pressure, and the stars, and the planets. They all are living and alive. And this Melchizedek priesthood understands that they have to have a relationship with nature. One time I was in a service and someone said, well, I believe that scripture. And I said, that's the beginning point. That's good. That's called theory. It's when you do it that it actually becomes faith, right? And so, oh no, this person, I can do that. I can do that. I said, well, here's a mountain. We're in Albuquerque. Let's just go out and see. Are you up for that? Well. A person wasn't. And I said, well, let me tell you why. How do you feel about rocks, crystals, gemstones? Oh, that's new age. I'm like, yeah, okay. And? There was no relationship whatsoever. She says, well, I love God's creation. Do you have a relationship with it? Do you pick up rocks and tell the rocks how beautiful they are? Do you like to hold them? Do you look at them? When you see a gemstone, do you go, wow? I know us girls do. Make it sapphires and rubies and diamonds, please. But beyond that, do you have a relationship? Because that mountain is made up of particles and dust and rocks and all kinds of things. Do you have a relationship? Or do you go out and get your feet dirty and say, oh my God, I can't stand the feel of the dirt on my feet? We have to change our language and our culture to make a friendship and a relationship. Do you know that the trees, they are alive, and they're going to take on some freaky little beautiful shapes and forms and talk. I mean, you can talk to the good doctor here. The rocks call him by name. And he wasn't even looking at them. They addressed him. He'll tell you. The rocks will bow down when we ask them to, not when we command them. Another time, there was somebody who wanted to prove a point about this as we were discussing it, and he started screaming and hollering at the mountain to fall down. And I said, I don't know about you, but if someone came up to me and was screaming and hollering at me, that would not be their best moment. I don't do that. We've got to get out of this mentality that Christians have learned that you raise your voice and you get authoritative because you really don't have authority. Those that have authority on the inside simply say it. The most powerful people are the ones who just say it, and it is. When someone goes to screaming and hollering, they have no authority. Their soul is hurt and needs help. Do you understand what I'm saying? The flowers. It's easy to love flowers. They're beautiful. But what about the other nutrients in the ground, the grass and things like that? Go ahead and cut it. I'm not saying you can't cut your grass. Don't be a weirdo. I have a friend who cuts the grass and saves the grass and makes, I don't know, some kinds of things out of the grass and then eats it. And I'm like, I'm not coming to your house for dinner. Don't ask. For Zion's sake, I will never be silent. That's a guarantee. For Jerusalem's sake, I will not be still. Is it the other way around? Doesn't matter. Until her righteousness shines forth as brightness and her salvation, which is Yeshua, that's what Yeshua means, as a burning torch. How many of you carry a love and a fire for Zion and Israel that is beyond, I just want to go there and walk where Jesus walked? That she is alive and she is breathing and she is waiting for her day. I know that we wait, and Christopher talked about calling for the bride. That's right. That's for you to do. But do you know what we wait for? That is in our hearts day and night and day. It's in our Amidah where we Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. We pray 3 times a day for the coronation ceremony of Messiah Yeshua on the throne of David in Jerusalem. I see it every day. I breathe it every day. I've even touched the crown that goes on his head. In my young years, when I moved to Jerusalem, my rabbi is the rabbi of the Third Temple. And I was involved with the beginning stages of this group of the Third Temple Institute. My whole family's father's side is best friends with the rabbi. The first ceremony, when they took the cornerstone for the Third Temple down to the pool of Siloach, like they did in the days of Yeshua, they took the cornerstone to anoint it, to say, we are now ready for the temple to be built. And by the way, there's 8 chapters in Ezekiel about the Third Temple. So don't tell me that it's not going to be done because it's in here. There's only one little verse that says, Bethlehem Ephratah, out of you shall come the Messiah. I mean, there's only one little verse about that. And Messiah was born. There's only one verse that says, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever perishes shall have eternal life. But there's 8 chapters about the Third Temple. And then there's even New Testament words too. That Third Temple is going to be built. And so when it came time to announce that to the world, that the priesthood had been recovered, and I knew the man who, anyway, it came time to anoint the cornerstone. And so it was during the Feast of Sukkot, and we have these ceremonies, water libation, wine libation ceremony. Doesn't mean much to you, means a lot to us. And so we were going down, and I joined in the party, and they handed me the first menorah for the Third Temple. I carried it in that ceremony and held it in the pool of Siloah while they anointed the menorah, and I was holding it. And so I was in that whole thing. That's how involved I was with the third temple. And I've known my whole life that we have to have that temple. Why? Because I used to think differently about it. I used to believe, like my countrymen believed, that that was a temple that Messiah was going to come to, and he couldn't come till we had one. So hurry up already. Let's get it done. Now I understand something quite different about it, but I still want that temple to go up. And so I spent many years helping raise money and find donors to help supply the money needed for the third temple, which came primarily from Christians. Now they have a 12-foot solid gold piece menorah. Some of you that have been there have seen that. Well, you've seen the replica that they have out. And so I've held in my hands the crown that they will crown Yeshua. We will crown Yeshua with. Yeah, the real one. That's how close we are. Now, I'm no longer friends with these people because let me tell you what they did. Because of the close relationship my uncle and all my cousins on my father's side had with the rabbi began to make demands that they renounce Yeshua. Now, part of the reason I grew up knowing the Messiah was because of them. They were dynamic, beautiful, spirit-filled Jewish believers. But they decided that they needed to be more religious, and so they wanted to become completely Orthodox. But okay, true confession. I tried it for 3 weeks and got kicked out. Literally was told to leave the home. Can I tell you why? I was asking too many questions. One of them was about wearing a wig. That if you're married, you put on a wig because it makes you holy. And I'm like, no kidding? All I have to do is get a wig and I'm holy? Oh my God, give me the wig. It's only funny to a Jewish person, you know? Do you understand how absurd that is? It's like the people that tell you don't wear men's clothing, although the men in those days were wearing dresses. So I really argued very eloquently, very Jewishly, how stupid that rule was. And how stupid it was that if my shirt wasn't to my elbows, that I was exposing a man to sin. Because, Clay, after all, you want to catch a girl, check out her elbows. Okay. I went to the bathroom. The law was that you must tear your toilet paper that you're going to use before sundown. I had been in a heated discussion with them about some of these things, and I just said, that's ridiculous. No. So I waited till Sabbath came. I thought, if I'm going to exit, I knew they're going to ask me to leave. I'm going to exit in style. I took the toilet paper, pulled out a big old roll, opened the bathroom door and let it run its course. Went to the light switch and went da 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 da. True story. Rabbi Rickman came to visit me. I just said, well, it's all true. I don't know what to tell you. My cousins got concerned. They wanted to help me, wanted to take me to the mikvahs, hold me underwater. But they all gathered together with him and 2 other rabbis, took them to the mikveh waters and had them renounce Yeshua as Messiah. 23 members of my family. So I said, okay, game on. I require now, I have justice, that the penalty for what he did is his salvation. And I'm going to kick his, no, I'm kidding. All right. This world, this Jewish world, it's crazy, make it crazy. Psalms, real quick. Just take a picture. His abode has been established in Jerusalem. His dwelling place is Zion. Now, you guys can just go on and on about heaven, and we should. But he's also got an arcing place from heaven to earth, and it is Mount Zion. I know you think it's Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's not. It's Mount Zion. As for me, Psalm 2:6, I have set my king on Zion, my holy hill. Shirula Adonai, Shir Chadash, sing praises to the Lord who sits enthroned in Zion, that in the gates of the daughters of Zion, the daughters of Zion. Who is a daughter of Zion? I am a daughter of Zion. Amen. I may rejoice in your salvation. That's Yeshua. Psalm 8:2, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion, the city of the great king, Jerusalem. Psalm 52, out of Zion, the perfection of beauty, Yahweh shines forth. Psalm 84, 5 and 7, blessed are those in whose hearts are the highway to Zion. You want to be blessed in this earth? Do you have a highway from your heart to Zion, to heaven? You know why they have that triangle? Where's the board? I can't find the board. Never mind the board. I want to draw a triangle because it's from earth to heaven to Zion, to earth to heaven to Zion, to earth to heaven to Zion. They go from strength to strength. Anybody weak here? Take a look at Mount Zion again. Let it awaken within you. Let them say of you, you were born in Zion. Anyone's theology that devalues Israel, that forgets about Israel, that Israel is not burning and alive within you, moves you from the order of Melchizedek to one of those nice, wonderful, tame Christian people that have lived a good life and going to have a nice time in heaven. You cannot forget Israel. You cannot devalue Zion. You can't come up to a Jew and tell them they're going to go to hell if they don't believe in your Jesus. You should calm down, Yana Sanders. Psalm 87. 2 and 5, Yahweh loves the gates of Zion more than the dwelling places of Jacob. And in Zion it shall be said, this one and that one were born in her. For the Most High himself will establish her. The Lord records as he registers that people, this one was born there. Zion lives in this man. This man who found his life in a church and woke up to the more in life. He came beside Nancy Cohen and loved her and learned from her and submitted his heart to be remade and renewed. And when he did, he came out as a son of Zion, and then he found his exact complement in that woman there. The ways of Zion, daily life for the Zion people. You choose to become aware and you take responsibility for your life, which means you learn to love yourself. You already love Yahweh, and if you love yourself, you're able to love one another. You get really, really good at loving yourself. Zion people love themselves. Zion people love the Word of God, and they practice healing. This is one of the holy It's not secret anymore. Holy names of Adonai. We don't say it. We engage the living letters. That's a whole nother teaching on another day. How we view others comes from within us. How we feel about ourselves is what we see in others. So if you're pointing out something that someone did wrong, you can only see it because it lives within you. If it doesn't live within you, you won't even see what they did. You turn to someone else and they go, no, that's not what my experience was. I didn't see that. Making sense? I know I'm going fast. 7 minutes. We got to go. Zion people understand that we are healers. We don't have to have a name tag that says that. We really believe that all authority has been given to us. We really believe that. And we practice it within instead of on somebody else. Yeah. I lay hands on myself every day. That's what this is about. I'm realigning myself with heaven because I had a bad thought about you, but it's really true of me. Shh. These are the things that show up, but we take responsibility for it. Negative emotions, it says this, be angry and sin not. Emotions are the number one cause of every physical ailment. Every one of them. It's not your genes, it's your emotions that your cell picks up on and is emitting into your body. We don't have time for all of that, but I love this. Be angry and sin not. She's smiling. She is smiling. Don't make her mad, I just want to say. But as she shoots you, she'll love you all the way back into life. Don't worry, she'll resurrect you too. That's more scary than being shot. Zion is waiting for you. Zion is waiting for you to appear before her. Not to get on a bus and be driven around to sites where they read the scripture, the holy scriptures that you're supposed to read in your room. You're supposed to already know them. But we go to the site and we engage with that realm where we truly are back to the earth so that an ark can begin to happen and the land wakes up and the people, my people, Judah, have hope. They have hope to just stand another day until our eyes are open, all of us. How did I get to be one whose eyes were opened? Yeah, same way Christopher got his. Works for me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Darling, I've got tours to Israel. Mary Haas is offering you a unique opportunity. I'm saying, come on. Come on, Order of Melchizedek. Come on and go with us. And please don't walk up to me and say, I cannot afford it. Say, not this year, but next year, if you need to say that. Because as soon as you say you can't afford it, guess what you've done? And I know people who are waiting with bated breath to claim your trip. And let me tell you, it's happened countless times in our lives with people to Israel. We've led over 60 tours. We stopped counting at 60. So this is not our first rodeo. But Israel is not going to be accessible for long. Some things are fixing to happen there. And you'll be looking and saying, oh, those poor people, just like, we know the Christians are, we're going to have a good time over here in America. Why you have a bad time? It's going to happen in America. This Bible began in Israel. Where do you think it concludes? I'm going to close with this. The Bible begins in Genesis like this. Bereshit bara Elohim. Et hashamayim va'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created. Now, that word created is in a perfect, completed tense. It means everything that was done at that moment was the completion of every single thing that would ever happen in this earth. In your life, in my life, in every human who's ever been born. Hebrew proves that. It's already been created. It's already done. You know, before the foundations of the earth. Yeah. That little word proves it. Second word in the Bible. But then he goes on to say, the heavens and the earth. I just want to get to something nice here. There we go. The word ha'aretz then is our nickname for Israel. When Adonai created the earth, he created Mount Zion. And from Mount Zion came every other particle to make up the rest of this globe that we live on. It began there. It will end there. You want to call yourself one of those special end time people? You'd better have a heart, not theory, a heart connection with the people and the land. The land of the Bible. The covenant people. And let's get this done. I mean, think of this. What if we were all gathered together because it was the Feast of Tabernacles? And we're going up during the millennial reign. Let's say we live in beautiful North Carolina. It's Feast of Tabernacles. And every year we go to Jerusalem to worship the Lord, as Zechariah 14 tells us we're to do. Otherwise you get a big old curse on your life from God. And we get to go together. That's what we're rehearsing when we go to Israel. We're rehearsing the event when we go up together to worship the King at the Feast of Tabernacles. So that means as Americans, you get to realign your priorities. You're eating out, you're buying extra things, your upward movement in life. You get to decide in these next 7 good years, Joseph, how your life is going to be. And where do your priorities lie? And it's not by saying, I love Zion. It's by your lifestyle. It's not saying, I want to go to Israel, and then, oh, I don't have the money because you did all these other things. Now, if there's legitimate reasons, there's legitimate reasons. So just say in your heart, I'll go the next year or the next year, or here's my 5-year plan. And work it and do it. And I'm not saying that, listen, this is not about the money. Trust me. We don't make money going to Israel. We make a few dimes doing conferences. This is not about lining pockets. I only do trips to Israel with people who don't line their pockets. True story. I wonder if you have the chutzpah to believe that holiness and living a holy lifestyle comes not from what we wear, not from what we really say, but only from what we do. And how much of our life is grounded in this word? Are you a survivor? Are you a martyr? Are you one of the 144,000? It's between you and the Lord. Because remember, if I bear witness of myself, my witness is not true. Let the Lord bear his witness of you and of me. I will be there. I can tell you that. It is my privilege in life that my end days will be in Jerusalem. I fully intend to do well to participate in my city in heaven, which is the New Jerusalem. And it would be such an honor to have you there as well. I bless you in the name of Yeshua. Amen.
I'm going to invite Christopher Carter to come on up. Oh, I do have a funny. And you'll be like, he should have not asked her to do that when you hear this. Tuesday morning, I woke up and a scene flashed before my eyes. And it was when Tanya and I had flown on our way to Texas to go minister at my friend's, the church they belong to in Texas. And we did a layover in Springfield, Missouri. And you land and, you look around for where the bathroom is and where where you can go get a sandwich. And it was a huge bathroom. And we go in there. And I flush a toilet and it breaks with hundreds of gallons of water. And I'm looking at it thinking, there's something wrong with that. And I don't know if I can even get out of here fast enough. Now, it stayed all in there. But they had to shut the entire bathroom down. Tanya was, I just kind of got on out there, and Tanya goes, Mary, I was in that bathroom, and the stall beside me went crazy. I go, that was my stall. And she goes, they're trying to get everybody out there, and they've got plumbers, and they're like, that's not even possible. And they're behind the walls, and they're doing all this stuff. For 2 hours, we sit there with our sandwiches, and it won't stop. And I'm thinking, what? What? Well, I wake up Tuesday morning, and the whole scene flashes before my eyes, and this was like 2 years ago. I'm like, what a weird vision to wake up to, because I had long since forgot crazy toilet. And so when I wake up Tuesday morning, my head changed the date, the time I was to be at the airport to pick up Yana and Darla. And I woke up and I'm like, okay, I got to get out by 10 o'clock. Well, once I leave, my daughter looks at my husband and goes, she said yesterday they changed their flight from 4 to 2. So if she just left at 10, she's going to get there at 11:30. What's she doing? Rich is like, I don't know, because he's used to me. Things can switch up in here. So I'm driving down there, and it's like 11:25, and I'm going to have to pay that fast lane thing that I don't have a pass for because I wasn't going to be late for them at 11:30. And at 11:25, this text comes through, and Yana goes, we're getting on the plane. We'll see you soon. I'm thinking, how is that even possible? Because I'm speeding. And I go, Holy Spirit, what's going on? Because yesterday I knew it was 2 o'clock, and today I wake up with 11:30. He said, you need a moment. I thought, am I in timeout? Are you putting me in Charlotte timeout? So I thought, okay, this is a couple hours, so what would make the most sense? And I thought, get food in the house for these two. Are you ready? Not yet. Good, because I haven't finished the joke, the story. So I think what could I get them? Trader Joe's. Love Trader Joe's. Don't have one up here. So I bring up a map, and the one I like is far away. I got time. I'll go to Trader Joe's. So I go around Trader Joe's, and I go straight into the bathroom, and you'll never guess. And I'm like, this is not possible, but I had the vision this morning. And I actually videoed it because it was a clean toilet, And I thought, I'm going to show Tanya because this has only happened when I was with Tanya. And I'm like, what could it be? And in my spirit, it's like, Mem, Waters. And you are ready? Yeah. Okay, great. And long story short, I'm walking through Trader Joe's. And I said, Holy Spirit, this was my mama's favorite place for me to take her shopping. And he said, and today was the day she moved home 3 years ago. And I had my moment connecting. So there is a toilet.
I don't have a toilet story. Yana started telling her story, and I was like, this could go anywhere. At this point, this story could go anywhere. How long did you say you made it in the Orthodox? 3 weeks? I'm kind of amazed you made 3 based on the stories. I was like, that seems long. That seems like they were being generous, I think. But after 1, they were like, she's not going to make it. Well, hey, you know what I'm going to do, because I think you'd miss it if I didn't do one shameless product placement moment. I think you'd feel like we missed out. I feel like we missed something there. So I'm going to do one real quick. If you're looking for books, because I found more hardcovers of Cosmic Journey. So I've got 5 or 6 more of those. Someone was asking me for them. But who's got a copy of Cosmic Journey somewhere? You got one? Hold it up so people know what I'm talking about, that hardcover. All right, they're all gone, but none of you have them with you. Okay, good. All right, oh, there you go. There's one. There we go. Well, the hardcovers you can buy from my website, but they're not on Amazon. Amazon will distribute the softcover versions for me, so they're there. Now, that book was, as I mentioned, I had a great team of artists and graphic designers, and Mikey's been over here painting. Mikey did all the Mazzaroth art for that book. You have her to thank for that. Kathy was somewhere in the back. I don't know where Kathy's at right now. But anyway, she's still back there, waving. Kathy did all the planet art. They were so gracious to work with me on this project. And honestly, their art stands out. And someone came up to me. They were flipping through it, and they were looking through Kathy's planet art. And someone said, so are these like the angels that are over the planets? And I was like, couldn't have said it any better myself. That's exactly what that is. And if you're wondering, how can that be and what is that about, just read that book. And then if you really want the explanation, like you want to take a deep dive into why I did a book, an illustrated guide to the stars and planets that reimagined them as spiritual beings, the explanation is in this book here, The Story of Angels and Nature, which just landed in the world about a week ago. So that's this one right here. It's the hardest book I ever wrote. So if you have criticism, give me at least 6 months before an email. That's all I can tell you. It's still a little raw. Don't really want to hear anything, but that was great for a little while. And then after a while, I'll be okay. The insecurity will have gone for the most part, and I won't let you know if it hasn't. So, but yeah, nice comments for now. Hard book to write. It was initially a part of Cosmic Journey. This was all one manuscript. And as it turns out, if you want to do an illustrated anything and you don't work for National Geographic or a giant publisher, it gets real expensive real fast. And so someone gave me some advice. They said, why don't you take the teaching part out so that you're not illustrating everything? Do the thing that really works well with illustration separately and put the other one in a different book. And that turned out to be great advice. I would say, think of this as the explanation for Cosmic Journey, or think of it as the sequel to Cosmic Shift. This is the material that I intended to put in Cosmic Shift years ago, but honestly felt by the end of that book I'd pushed the reader far enough. And thought, if I then imply that you should talk to the rocks after I've said everything that I just got done saying in those last 3 chapters, those of you who have read that book know what I'm talking about, then that seemed like a bit much to ask of a reader to hang on for that too. So I didn't then. So this is like one very long last chapter to Cosmic Shift. I would say those 2 books are probably, in my view, the most important books that I wrote. They aren't the most necessary, but they're the most important. I would say Caught Up in the Spirit and In the Palaces of Heaven are the most necessary. But these are the 2 most important to me. So this, come again? You sure can. I just pay people money to remind me of ways to peddle my stuff. So I'll give you that $20 when we're done. Same thing about, is that on your website? Yeah. I'm getting there too, but only 5 for you because I didn't ask you. So, What this book is an explanation of why we are not only allowed, but it is accurate to look at nature as alive and full of spirit, and that there is an entire forgotten history of humankind, whether it was a Hebrew origin or a Gentile pagan origin. Everyone saw the same world up until about 300 or 400 years ago. There was a massive change. It's not talked about. We are walking around like amnesiacs, which is why that's the first chapter. It's called Amnesia. So highly recommend this. It is on Kindle. The irony is not lost on me that the book that I wrote that says a lot about modern technology and nature is strangely the first book I ever made as an ebook on Kindle. So I don't know why, but that's the way it worked. So it's there on Kindle and it's there on Amazon, or it should be right now. I know the Kindle's there. The softcover should be there as well. That's the story of angels and nature. If you're looking to be a part of anything, and I'm just going to run through this real quick, you can always go to my website, which is discovertheheavens.org. Pretty easy to remember. I'm going to take a note from Yana here. I'm going to really get serious about you going to my website. I'm not going to be like, no, if you don't do it, it's fine. No, go to the website. Sign up to be in our Heaven Community Zoom calls. They're open to everybody. I do Zoom calls that are just open to you, whoever gets the email and whoever you want to send the email to. There's Heaven Community Zoom calls where we just spend time in the heavens. There's office hours Zoom calls, which are typically geared around questions that people send in. And we just discuss those for an hour. It's a solid hour. I'm done at 60 minutes on those. So if you want to get those notifications, you go to my website and you just click the little thing where it says sign up for the Heaven Community Zoom calls. And I've got your email, and then I'll send you all kinds of stuff. No, I won't. I don't do it a lot. So I'm not going to like spam your email with a bunch of things. But you will get emails periodically that say, hey, these are the next 3 or 4 events. Hey, this book just released. Stuff, I mean, like really simple stuff. And hey, we're doing this Zoom call. So that's there on the website. On my website is the link to our online school. Listen, I would love nothing more than to take the next 5 days and to teach in great depth and detail everything about nature and the angelic world and why they are linked together. Everything about the cosmic ages. All of the practice tips and pro tips about experiencing the heavens. I'd love to do that, but we can't, and that's why the classes are there. So there's, I think, 12 classes that are available. You can purchase them individually. You can decide to become one of our amazing group of monthly supporters, and you'll have access to every class I've ever done or will do so long as I'm alive and have a website. So if you get that, you can watch those things as much as you want. And I would highly recommend that, since there's just so much that we can't do in a weekend, even if we wanted to. And we pulled a Nancy and kept you here to 6 a.m. There's still can't do it. So there's classes on everything from, archangel discovery to angel stars myth, which is a lot about the planets, to the mysterious creative power of poetry, one of my favorite classes that I've ever done, to really understand the spiritual power of language. And tons more. An introduction to seeing the heavens is on there. If you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing, that's a great one to get. So they're all there. The year's kind of winding up. We're getting to one of my favorite parts of the year. Now, I had a lot of jokes lined up for this next thing that I'm about to do, but after all of those really nice things that Yana said about me, I don't feel like I can do any of them, which is a real shame. And I'm wondering if she did that on purpose, because I had her over a barrel about this one right here. So I was ready. I was like, I'm going to get her on this Christmas in the Heavens advertisement. But no, seriously. I'm not doing any of them now. Man, you're just too kind. It's like, man, after she too many compliments. Now I can't do anything up here. I've got to keep it real tight. No, listen, at the end of the year, every year I do a Christmas event. And believe it or not, I actually agree with everything that Yana said about Christmas. I really do. We share the same mind about not lying to ourselves at that time of year. I approach Christmas very differently. I don't approach it as the Christ Mass about Jesus' birth, but what I do approach Christmas as is a very special time for the earth itself, where nature goes through a death and a resurrection, and it all hovers around the winter solstice. And there's a reason why, for people who have their ancestry north of the equator, why that time of year gets a very special feeling. And as we were talking around the table last night, because it's just one more dress rehearsal, this time for the Gentiles, for these same principles of death and resurrection and crowning a king. It's all the same thing. And I even told Yana, it's almost like tabernacles for Gentiles. It's a very similar feeling. But it's not about the birth of Jesus. That's a tabernacle issue. It's about a winter solstice issue. It's about that there is nature itself. Everything that God made is going through a change right around the end of December. And there's some pretty good astronomical information that would maybe lead us to conclude that that's when the first Gentiles found the Messiah and gave him gifts. Not that he was born then, but that's probably when they found him. Again, there's something important about a certain part of the world in that time of year. I'm giving this to you because Christmas in the heavens for me is an opportunity to be in the heavens with Messiah all together while we're just in the Spirit together while we meet. If you've been on any of the Zoom calls that I've done in the previous years, anybody ever joined me for Christmas in the heavens? Okay, good. They're fun times. They're really fun times. For me, it's about let's get you in a meeting with him because he's going to give you gifts and you're going to give him gifts. And that's all it's about. So I've got 2 nights in December, Wednesday night and Thursday night. I know during the week, let's do it different. Wednesday night and Thursday night, December 7 and 8. I have some incredible worship leaders coming. I've got 2 local to Gainesville and Ocala. And somehow I have managed to convince Mr. Clay Webb to come to Christmas in the Heavens. So he's going to grace us there as well. And it's a real simple agenda. It is about spending time in adoration of him and being in the heavens together while we celebrate this time of year with him. I have this hunch that he has got a word for all of us. And I'm just throwing it out there. I just have a feeling he's going to talk to us about things. And we're going to do it all together. So Wednesday night and Thursday night. And if you come, especially if you're from out of town, and you come all the way to Gainesville, Florida, we're going to do some fun things on Thursday. I'm going to organize a little nature field trip to the butterfly rainforest in Gainesville. And we'll have a little impromptu, very casual, we'll spend time with the Lord in the heavens and have some Q&A Thursday afternoon as well. So in addition to those 2-night meetings. You're like, how do I sign up? Wait, I'll tell you. I know, you didn't ask. I didn't get to get anybody for that one. But hey, just go to the website, go to discovertheheavens.org. You can go to the shop. I think that's where I have the signups. There's a live stream option for that. There's a single person registration in person, and then there's just one rate for a couple or a family. It's not a lot, y'all. It's Christmas. We're just going to come. And we're going to have a great time. Have a little food each night too. Really fun, kind of cozy environment. We have to pretend in Florida because it doesn't ever feel like it. So it'd be a lot of pretending. So because we're not kidding ourselves and because I love Yana so much, I was around the dinner table last night and I was kind of pressing her. I was like, Yana, I really think you ought to come to one of these. I think it'll be a lot of fun. You bring a little Hanukkah in and we really round this thing out. I have is it a soft commitment or a hard commitment? It's a hard commitment. I've got Yana 2023 coming to Christmas in the Heavens because I do it every year. Yeah, right. I'm just going to keep working. It's a slow burn, right? I'm very excited about that time. Where's our Florida friends tonight? A lot of Florida friends. I got part of the crew that's helping put Christmas in the Heavens on over here. Miss Christy's back there. And then Florida people, the Florida girls, they're back there. Yeah, so Florida people, let's do it. I think it's important for Gainesville. I think it's important for the area to have a very non-territorial event where he is the star of the show. Yes. And that's what this event is all. I know all of our events are that way, but Gainesville needs one where he is the star of the show. And he will be the star of the show, December 7 and 8. So that's what we're doing. Clay, thanks for agreeing to come all the way from Ohio. We're going to have a good time. All right. Moving on, everybody. You ready? Can I jump into some things? You want to take out something to write on in case we say something important? No telling. Listen, I've enjoyed this weekend. I've enjoyed how eschatological all of our talks have been. That's a fancy way of saying what you think about the end. Notice that none of us are talking about the end of everything like it's all coming to a close. We're all talking about the end of some things and the beginning of new, far better things, far and above anything that we could ask or imagine. And the changes are vast, and that requires the level and the intensity of conversation that you're hearing from me and from Nancy, and you're definitely hearing it from Darla and Yana this weekend. It requires an intensity of conversation, because we live in the part of the world that's founded on comfort and convenience. And listen, and you very graciously let me talk to you about apathy and complacency on Thursday night. I may not be done talking to you about it, just a fair warning. But I'm not mad at anybody. It'd be the same. I'm not going to go to Iran and look at all the Christians that are persecuted there and be like, you bunch of sinners, what are you doing wrong? You know, like that's not what that is. No one would do that, right? This is your persecution. I'm not going to look at you and be like, you bunch of sinners, you're doing stuff wrong. It's persecution. That's what it is. And if you can identify it that way, you're going to get a real leg up on not falling into it every other Tuesday when you wonder why you can't get up the motivation to spend some time in the heavens and open the eyes of your heart a little bit to see who you really are. So identify it for what it is. And we're not getting mad at anybody on that. We've had great conversations this weekend about what's coming. And I know it's about time. I feel like it was always kind of stirring in me, but I'm just totally straight with you right now. I did a lot of meetings, over the last years. And I was like, man, if I bring that up, I am persona non grata. Because that's a real quick way to throw everybody off of I thought we were just like everything was going good and we're just going to get better and better and better. And I'm like, definitely going to get better and better and better. Going to go through a little something on the way to better and better. Definitely going to get better though. It's so much better that it takes the something that we're going to go through. So I really appreciate everything. And I want to get right to the stuff. And it's just so appropriate to say thank you, and I'm just going to do this real quick. Thank you. I'm going to quote Yana a few times here and what you just talked about as we do this today. But it's just a giant privilege to be able to do this. Thank you so much for everything that you've said. You're in big time trouble, just so you know. Yeah, but really, thank you. I mentioned to you all on Thursday night that I met the Holy Spirit in college. It was a lot of fun. I was a Baptist. I think the Lord thought, what can we do to get a laugh? And so let's just get the Baptist Student Union. Let's throw the Holy Spirit on them and see what they do. And it was comical and it was great. And I'm telling you, I met the Holy Spirit and I got everything that I ever wanted in my Christian life. I got miracles that were happening all around me. I saw healings. I saw just like signs and wonders, miracles, things that are impossible. And I'm studying physics in college. Believe me, the analytical part of my brain was working real hard, trying to figure out how to explain the things that I was experiencing. And there were no explanations for the phenomenon. And I would just talk with the Lord. And every time I'd ask a question, I'd get an answer instantly. And then I'm telling you, that lasted for, I don't know how many months. It was less than 6. It's probably more than 3. It was a really wonderful honeymoon of just being in that place with the Lord. And then in one day, in one 24-hour period, if the faucet was on full blast, God turned it off to nothing. It went from 100% like fire hydrant, just to complete and utter silence. And I thought, I'm dying. I really did. The people that were around me that are really well-meaning ministers, it really thought that I had had a mental breakdown, or that I had potentially had a problem where I was real up and now I'm real down, one of those. And I knew that wasn't it, but I've never been so sad in my entire life because I had it all. And I had the Lord so close, and that's all I ever wanted. And then it was gone in an instant. And I was just broken, completely broken. That was a Saturday that happened. Sunday, I'm in the Baptist church. That's where you go. And that's where I was. That was the first Baptist church I was kicked out of. There were two. That was number one. Made it longer than 3 weeks, but I'm sitting there. Mary mentioned this. You do the classic Christian thing where you're like, I'm just going to open this Bible and whatever it is, that's what God's saying, you know? And I opened it to Kings, and there's the moment where God drives Elijah into the wilderness and says, you're going to be there for 3.5 years in silence and famine and everything. And I read that and I was like, no way am I doing this for 3.5 years. And I was actually correct. It was 11. And now I'll tell you that during that time of silence, there were still great things in my life. It's not like I'm not living. I learned to function. I even learned to function with a measure of what was there before I met my wife. I got married. I started doing mission work in Europe. I saw people get healed. Things happened. But I was always consciously aware that this was a far cry from where I was. Now, naturally, you can imagine that causes some internal scars that need some healing. And I wanted to believe God for good things. I did. But in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, he can take these things away in an instant. So anytime something good would come, I would either, like an orphan, try to hoard it, never eat it. You know what I mean? Like you're given a piece of cake, but the orphan won't eat it because it's like, I may never get another, you know? Or they hide it away because they're like, I don't want anybody to take it. And so I have all of these kind of orphan impulses on the inside about like God did so many great things and they all went away. And I remember starting this healing journey as the Lord's about to just open up the heavens to me. And you know how God does stuff. Even before that very fateful meeting with that couple in Columbia, South Carolina, for that sozo teaching session where my eyes just opened up and the rest is history. Even before that, because God knows context matters. Even before that watershed moment, that greatest revolution of my life, he was planting some seeds. And I was already sort of learning that there's a process available to me to go before the Lord and go, I'm having a giant hurdle here that I cannot get over. You've got to show me where it started. And so he takes me back to that moment where it all turned off, seemingly overnight. And he shows me where I was in my apartment, pacing around, feeling like a crazy man that has lost his mind because the voice was there and now it's gone. And I'm like, Lord, where were you in that picture? And he was holding me from behind me the entire time, every step I took. And there was this venomous cobra-like head spitting lies at me the whole time. And he was going, I protected you from so much that day. And I'm like, well, thanks. But you let it happen. You're still kind of responsible. You could have stopped it. You could have done it all. Like, why did we even do that? And he takes me through this journey. He says, Chris, did you deserve for me to pour out my spirit on you when you were in college? Did you deserve that? I said, no. Are you kidding? I didn't even know the Holy Spirit existed. We're good Baptists. Come on, if you're a Baptist, just laugh with me. It's funny. So no, I didn't deserve it. He goes, Christopher, did you deserve for me to take all of that away overnight and send you into the silence and into the wilderness? And I was like, well, I guess no, because I didn't deserve to get it. So I kind of didn't deserve for you to take it away. And then this moment dawns on me about what he's saying. And I got real mad. And I looked up to heaven and I went, so what are you saying? That I'm just at your mercy? And all of heaven looks down at me and goes, yes. It's true. It's exactly how this happened. Now, at this point, I'm a mess because I was like, oh, well, all right. Okay. All right. And then the Lord goes, Christopher, The things that I gave you in college, I wanted to last forever, but they never would have. He said, eventually, you would have thought, it's happening because you deserved it. Because you earned it, because you showed me that you could handle it, because you proved worthy of it. He said, and I wanted to give you things that you would be able to hold on to, not like an orphan, but like a son forever. And in order to do that, I had to show you that you did not earn or deserve anything, and this has never been about you. It has only ever been about me. And I'm a mess in this moment. And he said, son, I sent you into the desert for 11 years because 11 years in the desert is a small price to pay to be connected to my mercy. And then because he's such a good dad, he says to me in that moment, this is before the eyes of my heart even opened up. He says, Christopher. I said, yes. And now you see where he's going because he's so methodical. So what he did was he just said, I'm trying to give you something that you'll never walk away from and that you'll never lose. That's the point. I'm going to give you something, but I had to set you up so that you would be able to run with it for the rest of your life. That's what all this was for. So then in his God way, he gets me there and goes, Christopher. I said, yes. He said, you know, I'm preparing a place for you. I said, yes, I know that. He goes, do you want to see it? And before that watershed moment of my life, I had my very first glimpse, and it lasted about a half a second. And that's a pearl just for me. And then a few weeks later, I find myself in the living room of that couple, and the eyes of my heart opened and stayed open. His whole point was to put something in my hands that wasn't dependent on trying to roll that massive snowball of spiritual energy so that it will gain momentum so that I can work myself out of all of my comfort and convenience tendencies. He wanted to put the miraculous in my hand every single day. And he did that by opening up my eyes to the place he ascended to in his body, and said, you can come here and walk and talk with me as often as you like, so that while you are in the grocery store, you are also here. There's never a snowball now. There's never a gaining of spiritual momentum for something to happen from that moment on, when it's just you're there at your best moment, you're up here at your worst, you're up here in line at the DMV, which is a little taste of hell. If you're there, if you can be in the spirit when you're in line at the DMV, there is no persecution that has any hold on you. It's kind of a joke. It's kind of a joke. No, it's. I had this friend in college, God bless her, in the Baptist Student Union, and she went to go get her tags from the DMV, and it was the 3 letters, and then the 3 numbers were 666. And of course, we're good Baptists. I was like, you can go back and get another plate. And she goes, no, I'd rather carry the mark of the beast than wait in line at the DMV. That's a true story. Oh, listen. Hey, y'all, come to Christmas in the Heavens. It's going to rock. I'm moving on, okay? It's a great passage here that I've always felt really defined well my own journey. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure, or a treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it, and then in his joy, he went and sold all that he had and he bought the field. I don't know the timing of God to put it in my life when he did, but it was perfect. Because when my eyes opened up and I'm there in the heavens with him, walking through this gateway into this lush green garden and spending time with the Heavenly Father and realizing that it's not a dream, so it's not symbolic. It's not a vision, so it's not a metaphor for something. I'm in the Spirit on the Lord's day. And just doing what John was doing in Revelation, I know that my body's here, but I know that I'm conscious that I'm also there where Jesus ascended to. And just that introduction, for whatever reason, the timing was perfect. It was this moment where I realized this is the spiritual jackpot. I'm going to do this every single day of my life. I found the kingdom of heaven, a treasure hidden in a field, and y'all, I went away and I bought the entire field. I bought everything. Every single thing that came out of that experience, I purchased it, bought it, and thought, I am going to look into these things so hard because there is no way that he is showing me not only his life since his ascension, but he's showing me my life after the resurrection. I will know this so well. I already told you my nerd moment. You all have heard it before, where I paced out the rooms of this place that he was showing me in the heavens because I wanted to know that place so well that I didn't have to work to be there. I never wanted to guess where this door opened up to. I wanted to know it. I wanted to have it in my head the same way that I don't wonder when I walk down the hall of the home that I live in my mortal sojourn. I don't guess where the doors open up to in my own home. You know, like I'm not like, well, it's the garage. Who knew? You know? Most people have their house figured out within the first hour or so, you know? So y'all, I bought the whole field. I thought there's no way I'm not knowing every room, everything that happens in here, every reason why these rooms exist, every reason why it's the size and the shape it is. I'm going to find out all of it because this is the place that he prepared for me. The first time that I remember seeing myself in the heavens and realized that does not look like Christopher. And then I bought the whole field. I thought if there's any way that he's going to deem to show me the form that he will resurrect from the dead that carries a weight of glory that this mortal one cannot contain, then I'm going to know it so well that I feel as at home in that body as I do in this one. That's still a journey that takes a little bit of time. But I bought the whole field. There's something about meeting yourself when he shows you this is you as a new creation. John chapter 1, the prologue to the Gospel of John. To those who believed he gave the right to become children of God, not born of husband's will or human blood, but born of God. In other words, the mortal DNA that formed you here, that your resurrection is not dependent on that at all. How do I know that? Well, one of my favorite moments in the Gospels, it may be my absolute favorite, is when the Sadducees approach the Messiah with their great thought experiment. And I love it so much. It's so well thought through and it's funny all at the same time. They come to him, they're like, so there's this woman and she marries this guy and he dies. Poor him. So according to the custom, she marries his brother and he dies. And then on down to the seventh brother. They're all dead. She's married them all. God bless her, sweetheart. And at the resurrection, whose wife will she be? Now they think they've got him because they're really wanting him to go. There's no resurrection from the dead. The Sadducees in this respect were kind of Gnostics for their day. They believed whatever resurrection would occur or whatever life would occur after death would be entirely ethereal and spiritual. It would not include a body. And that is a very Gnostic notion. And he's got them. They think they've got him with this question. And they're kind of smart Alex about it. And that's the kind of person I would have been if I had been there. So I'm glad I didn't live during that time because I would have been like going with the Sadducees, like, I can't wait till we get him with this one, So, Lord, at the resurrection, whose wife will she be? And he says, well, you're in error because A, you don't know the scripture, and B, you don't know the power of God. At the resurrection, she's neither married nor given in marriage. Now, I'm just going to stop there because the rest of that story is a discussion for another day. Relax, you'll be thankful. So, he gives them the understanding that the one covenant that's stronger than the bond you have with your mom and your dad, for this reason you'll leave your father and mother and be joined to your spouse. That the strongest covenantal relationship in your mortal life does not survive the resurrection of the dead. So stick that in your spiritual pipe and smoke it for just a minute. That's the message there. At the resurrection, she's not married to any of these guys, and she's like, thank God. Because, and it's a comical story because she clearly married either, they are the weakest genetic stock in all of Israel, or they all have a complete lack of foresight. It's one of the two. But she's probably thrilled. She's like, yeah, all 7 died. We're good, you know? Now, he's not making a statement about gender, romance, or any of those things, but he is making a statement about how significant the shift is from mortal to immortal. And he's saying, you're such a new creature. That the strongest mortal covenant that's there, which is marriage, that even causes you to leave your father and mother, does not survive the resurrection. Scott, I can see your eyes boring into me. Yes, there are other interpretations. I'm just giving you mine. Take it with a giant grain of salt. There's my disclaimer. I love Scott. He loves me. We talk about this stuff a lot. We lean into each other. Yana, we do. To find out who you are, not as the mortal that you've grown up knowing, but as the immortal new creation that's not bound by the DNA that formed you here, is perhaps one of the wildest propositions that it scares me even to this day to talk about it with a group of people. Because my hunch is either correct and it's time to talk about it, or I'm real wrong. If we're not in a transition between the ages, then I am going to cause a lot of problems. Because I'm going to say things that are well before their time. And I don't actually want to do that. If we are, and the astronomy's right, and listen, I did some homework before I put it in a book, so don't think this is kind of half-cocked, you know? I really did. I mean, I thought about it pretty hard before I was like, yeah, I'll say this in a microphone, you know? But if we are in a transition between the ages, and that transition is this transition where we're moving from a closure of the story called the redemption of man and opening the first chapter of the story called the dominion of man, that's just a guess, it might not be called that. But if that is the transition that we're in, then it makes this issue of understanding the resurrection of the dead so important. Let me tell you about another conversation that I had really early on in this journey. And I've put it in almost every single book that I wrote, save this last one, or the last 2. There's always a chapter in my books about the Enoch conversation that I had with God. Because it was such an important moment where he's got me using the eyes of my heart for the first time. And he knows how much I'm loving it, but he knows how new and novel it is. He also knows that I know no one else that's doing this. So I'm a little shaky on, or is this okay? I'm fine doing it in private, you know? And he goes, Christopher, on your deathbed, are you going to be so convinced that you have this access to the heavens, that you can meet with me this way, that you'll be doing this right when the moment comes when you transition from this life to your immortal one? Now, it's a very poignant question. He likes to put these things on me, these really good thought experiments. Like, let's see how much you trust it. And that's what the question's about. On your deathbed, will you be doing this? Now, he doesn't ever give you time to answer because he knows you don't have any answers anyway. So he goes, well, what about Enoch, who didn't die? Enoch walked with God and was no more. He's simply walking with God. He's present across that barrier, across that veil, until the day comes when it's just more natural for him to be there instead of here. He puts on immortality. His transition took a couple 100 years, 365, right? His transition takes 365 years. Okay, maybe that sounds okay, about right. Maybe that's how long it would take a human. I don't know. And he eventually has put on the garment of immortality through this process of walking with God. I'm going to argue in the Spirit like John was doing, to the point where it's just more natural to be there than here. And so the Lord says, well, what about Enoch and his deathbed experience, which is no deathbed experience at all? And the Lord says, now think about the group of people who are alive and remain until the coming of the Lord. He says, think about when Paul says we will not all sleep, but we will all be changed. In the last trumpet, the twinkling of an eye. He said, we who are alive and remain until the coming of the Lord will not precede those who have fallen asleep, who have died. He said, but the dead in Christ will rise first, and we who are alive will be caught up together with them in the clouds, and so we shall be with the Lord forever. We who are alive and remain until the coming of the Lord will not precede those who have fallen asleep. We who are alive and remain until the coming of the Lord. And so the Father's got my undivided attention. And he says, what about that group of people? They all transition into their immortality like Enoch did. They simply put on the garment of the resurrection without actually going through a death. And then he said, could it be that the reason why they will die like Enoch, which is no physical death at all, is because they will have lived like him up until that moment? Could it be that the group that's called we who are alive and remain until the coming of the Lord, survivors, potentially? Could it be that the only way to even make it to that point is because of a continual walk that participates with immortality even while you are in a mortal zone? And when I say participate with immortality, I don't mean like I'm connecting with God and I know he's immortal. No, I mean going into the immortal up here, putting on the garment of your resurrection body and feeling what it's like to walk around in it so it's not such a shock when it comes on. And if you just follow Jesus' own resurrection, you have such a great model of what that's like. He absolutely changed. His trip down and back up changed him. He came out with that resurrection body, and it was without a doubt a body. That's why he keeps telling everyone to touch him. And do you have food? He's making the point to them, don't be Gnostics. I have a body. Touch it. I am here, tangible, physical. This is not an ethereal form. I can eat in a resurrected, immortal body. You guys are like, thank God. Who said no keto? There's no keto. No keto in heaven. It's all bread, 24 hours a day. I'm just... People are like trading now. They're like, yes, I feel that. I definitely feel that. You guys are funny. But he was different. They didn't recognize him. I heard a lot of fun Sunday school answers for that phenomenon. But they don't recognize his looks or his voice until he lets them. But he keeps his memories, even though he didn't keep all of his form. He kept his gender. There's no question about that. No one's confused on if he's a dude. He remembers who they are, but he has put on the super identity of the once and future king of every nation on this earth. And I don't mean this as any kind of a slight, and I know, Yana, it won't sound this way given my disclaimer, but I really fully believe he died the king of the Jews. He was raised the once and future king of every culture. He's everyone's king now. He is the king of all the kings. His resurrection and him being the firstborn of the resurrection is what qualifies him in that role as the king of the entire resurrection. Now, I remember early on in my spirit-filled life, I never had dreams before until meeting the Holy Spirit, but I had one dream that really stuck with me for a long time. In my dream, and it was pretty lucid, I'm driving down the road with a friend. And all of a sudden on the road, all of the cars start pulling off of the road. And everyone's getting out of their cars and they look all frantic and they're pointing in this direction over here. And so we do what they do. We pull the car over and we both get out and we look over to where everyone's pointing. And I'm looking at this kind of skyline of a city. And it's not an explosion like a bomb, but it's like an eruption. Like something is just erupting from the ground, and it's just like billowing smoke and fire. And as I'm fixated on this like eruption, I see him walk across my field of view like he is 20,000 feet tall. And in one stride, the Messiah covered the entire distance of the entire landscape that I'm looking at. And in this moment, in this dream, I hit the ground. I remember to this day the feeling of the dirt on my nose. I saw him walk across and I went, bam. And I'm telling you, there was not one thought of what kind of eternal reward am I going to get. I had one thought in this dream, and it was, oh God, I just hope I made the cut. That was the only thought I had. It was that real, and he was that big, and I just thought, dear God, I just hope I made the cut because it's over. And I'm afraid to move in this dream. I'm not moving. I'm like, we just stay here and hope we're not noticed. Because if he starts separating sheep and goats, I don't know. Let's just hope we're in the right crowd. Who knows? My face is to the ground. I'm only looking at ground. And out of my peripheral vision, I see the ground start to move. And I see something come up out of it. And I see 2 feet with still a little bit of dirt on them from the ground walk in front of me in my peripheral, going the same direction he was going, which we all know where he's going. And I'm still in the dream thinking, oh God, I just hope I made the cut. And then in the dream, I feel these 2 hands grab either side of my face. And I feel these hands pulling me up, and I'm looking into the face of him. And he has this biggest goofy grin on his face that just said to me, you giant dork, you were really concerned about whether you made the cut? What are you even thinking? And still in the dream, I'm like, not worthy, not worthy. And I shook my face away and I wouldn't look at him, and I feel these 2 hands. Just making me look him straight in the face. You look back at your life and you're like, everything was kind of a run-up to that moment about opening the eyes of my heart, wasn't it? Like you kind of look back, every dream, every moment, he was just warming up. Do you know there's this, this phenomenon, which again, I think could potentially be the scariest and most dangerous thing that I take a crack at talking into a microphone about, because it is so otherworldly. And you guys have heard all my jokes before. You know I say this all the time, but you know it was never said of anyone that truly pursued eternal things. Wow, they really fit in. Throughout all of history, no one who has touched heaven is ever left unchanged. if you are unaltered by your interaction with the eternal realm that he ascended to, I will question whether you interacted with the realm itself. No one walks away unaltered from that. And if the transition is here, if we're on the cusp of that, then sooner or later there will be a group of people who dare to look and find out who they are, not born of husband's will or human blood, but born of God. And I found myself up there. I look pretty good. Look pretty good. It's not bad. It's an upgrade. It's an upgrade. I mean, I like it. I'm like looking at it, I'm like, this is good. You did good, Lord. This is all right. I can get used to this. You know, when he said he's preparing a place for you, that's not like just an inheritance, a part of a heaven and earth overlapping inheritance. The place he's preparing for you is also the form you will put on. And it is a form. It is a body. It's weightier, it's more expensive, it's more adorned, it's more glorious, but it is a body. And I got used to walking around the halls of my home in that body. That's where I found that book, Stars for All Seasons, in the library in my home in the heavens. And that's where I learned about the cosmic shift in the ages. And I will argue to anyone that if you take the time to look and you actually discipline yourself to do it, you will no doubt find out things that are above your pay grade that you have no business knowing. And then you get to go through the fun process of, I'm either right and this is timely, or I am really not right and this is going to do a lot of damage. But I love Darla. I love her risk-taking nature. I loved it when she came up here and said that. I told her after that meeting, I said, do you ever think you'd see the day in all of our ministerial and religious activity where speakers are defined by their ability to come up here and go, yeah, I could be totally wrong. That it's not, it used to be that if you're going to hold a microphone, you have to be 100% right. But what that ends up doing is that you just can talk in truisms if you have to be 100% right to hold a microphone. And truisms don't help anybody because they're things we already all agree on. There's risk involved, tons of risk. And yes, I mean, believe me, I've had some opposition. I've had some people tell me you're introducing too much risk. People aren't ready. And I was like, totally get it. Totally get it. You're right. None of us are ready. That was kind of the point from the beginning of my journey. None of this had anything to do with us. It had to do with what he wants. It wasn't about me being worthy or showing him that I would prove capable of handling something like this. Because then it would fade away sooner or later. I was pretty sure that I wasn't making it all up one day when a man was reaching out to me to come do an event at his church. And I actually thought it was a scam. It was just, I didn't know the guy. I can normally trace how someone finds me to invite me. And so I was like, I don't know who this is. And I just blew it off. I was like, I'm not even responding. But the text kept coming. I didn't know this, but he'd filled up my voicemail before that. And I never checked my voicemail because it's always full. So why bother, you know? If you ever want to reach me, don't leave a voicemail. Text me, okay? Send me an email. Anyway, so eventually the texts are coming. I really want you to come. I want you to do this event in December. I didn't remotely like the dates he was sending. I still didn't really respond back. Eventually he's like, if those dates aren't good, give me whatever dates you have. I was like, it's persistent. Maybe it's not a scam. So we just arrange a phone call. And I get, listen, disclaimer, I love accents of all kinds. If you've ever been on any of the Zoom classes with me, I bring out accents all the time. I'm not saying I do them good. but I just love them. It's a pastime. I mean, on long car trips, like coming here and going home, there will be a point in the drive home where I just start reading billboards in different accents. Because at that point, you'll try anything to stay alert. So I love accents, and I always take a crack at doing them, and I never mean it to be offensive, even if I do it poorly, which is a given. So I'm going to take a really bad crack at a very beautiful West African Ghanaian accent. So we arrange the phone call, dial the number, it picks up, and I haven't said hello or anything, and this man says, "Man of God, would you like to know how it is that I am contacting you?" And I was like, yeah. "When I was in the heavens, Jesus says to me, 'You must find Christopher Carter.' So I Googled your name. And I find that you have written books about what I am experiencing." So I was like, okay, not a scam. So I went there. It was African church. It's not African American church. It was African church. Y'all, I have never felt so white in my life. And I did so many things wrong. I brought my buddy with me who has been to African church before, but he's like white bread America like me, but he's been to African church. And I said, "Listen, you have one job. Don't let me do something stupid." Totally failed on his job. I did a lot of stuff wrong, but I knew I was in a different zone. I did. The worship, I was like, are we in the Caribbean? This is amazing, it's like drums and singing. And again, I've never felt that white in my life, but I was just like, I'm trying to move with it. It feels good, It's the first time that I've ever had a security guard, like while I'm speaking. And there was a person that, kind of like you, but honestly, it looked even more foreboding. I'm here, there's like 5 feet, and it was like if anyone gets up and makes one move towards that man, that person's going down. It was for real. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but it was an amazing experience. It really was. I loved it. I loved every bit of it. I love different cultures. I felt really privileged to be there. The last day I'm there, Pastor Grant and I, before I go home, we're having lunch, and he tells me the whole story. He said, "Listen, I'm not going to do the accent this time." But he said, I was up there, and I was talking with Yeshua. We're having a conversation. This man comes up, interrupts our conversation to ask Jesus a question. He stops talking to me and goes to answer this man's question. And then he goes off and he comes back, and Pastor Grant was like, "Who was that?" And he goes, "That was Christopher Carter. You need to go find him." And then Pastor Grant says, "When I Googled you, I had no grid that someone's up there like I'm up there." He said, "So I thought I was going to find like a Wikipedia entry that Christopher Carter lived 1783 to 18, He said, "I thought you were dead." He said, "But then when I find out that you're alive right now, and you were up there when I was up there," he said, "that's when I started calling." And then he told me who he saw, because he didn't see me. And I know I'm not telling you, because I share enough of my heaven life that some things are pearls just for me. And my resurrection body is a pearl just for me. But that's the body he saw, because he described it to me and he was right. And I don't tell people about that. So it gave me a little bit of encouragement here that perhaps I am participating with my resurrection life even before it has properly arrived. Y'all, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. And when you find it, overjoyed, you go and you buy the whole field. I'm going to tell you, there are a couple different responses to being introduced to participating with that realm right now as easily as we have been trying to train people to do it. There are three general ways to respond to it. The one way, and I do this a lot when I talk about the cosmic ages too. The one way to do it is to realize that your job is to finish out the things that we're doing right now and to finish them strong. Your job is to finish that age of Pisces, to finish that Great Commission, to finish all of those things and to do it with gusto. And you hear the message about heaven access in the ages, and you're like, I can use that, I can use that, I can use that. And you draw the things that are going to be great tools to put in your tool belt that will just send you off to do that mission even more effectively. And I am for that. I support pretty much only Pisces ministries with my money, because I want it to finish well. Age of Pisces, that's the one we're coming out of, in case you haven't read Cosmic Shift. I support, let's finish the things that are coming to a close, because they're still valid right now. They haven't been done away with. It's still good. All of it's still good. That's a legitimate, holy, and honestly, the people that I know, I mean, I support some crazy missionaries, y'all. I support missionaries that are way more radical, way more edgy, way more cutting edge, way more everything than me. Because I'm not doing what they're doing in the Middle East. And frankly, I'm terrified to do what they're doing in the Middle East. I'm not doing what they're doing in Iran. But they are. And some of them have even had the privilege to train, to open the eyes of their heart. Some of those missionaries have actually brought that phenomenon to their teams. And it's a great tool in the tool belt. Although they typically find that in that part of the persecuted world, when people are coming to the Lord, they're coming to the Lord with their eyes already opened, because he's already appeared to them, and that's how they came to the Lord. Then there's another response that's just like, you know what? I think my job is to help the transition, to help things go from what we were doing coming out of this one age and to go into this next age, because ages don't change like a light switch. They're like giant cosmic doors. One's grinding to a close, the other one's opening up. And their job is to be like an on-ramp, off-ramp. They're there just to help the ones that they identify. They're like, I bet that one is probably hungering for this stuff that God's about to release, and they're probably wanting to start living like Enoch. Let me see if I can get them along. These are like Holy Spirit ninjas in the Christian community. They're the ones that are just like hanging around, and after a church service, they just come up to someone. They're like, "Hey, are you interested in angels?" And they're like, "Meet me in the parking lot in 15 minutes." That's the on-ramp, off-ramp. And the other response, and it's no better, it's no more radical, it's no more edgy, it's no nothing, but the other response is, I've got to go find out what's in the field. And that's the one that I picked. Picked is probably the wrong word. Because what does God say when you look at him and go, why me? What's God say? Because I chose you. He's choosing people to finish. He's choosing people to help the transition. He's choosing people to look ahead and pave the way. They're all good. Now, my job was to go find out what's in that field. So I bought the whole thing and went after, what is this going to look like if I start to put on my own resurrection? What's it look like if I become comfortable in the place that he's prepared for me? What's it look like if I discover a Christopher that's no longer a Christopher, but by the name that I get called there? Also not telling you that. You're right. What's that look like? And enough instances of seeing how those things trickle down from there to here was certainly enough to keep me going. To find out how much of participation with that world starts to speed this process along and alters you, and this is the dangerous part, alters you beyond anything that you could ask or think. And it is a struggle, and I'm being very honest with you. It is a struggle when I really pause to think about it, to consider how dangerous it is. Because if it's the right time, then good, this was going to happen anyway. But man, if it's the wrong time, this is way too soon, and we're going to cause a lot of trouble. You should know the risks going in, I think. A lot of you are like, should we still sign up for Christmas in the Heavens? Someone asked me about I think the statement, I said it Thursday night. It was such a great question. I can't remember who asked me back there at the table, but it was so good. They just said, okay, when you said you were jealous for next age things, what did you mean? What did that mean to say that you're jealous for those things to be right, or you're jealous for those next age things? And listen, I want to define that really in a solid way for you. And I want to start by just saying, what do I mean by next age? All I'm talking about is the dominion and calling of a person post-resurrection. That's what I'm talking about. And like every transition between the ages, there's always a group of people like the Essenes in the last transition that start practicing the next commission even before it's properly arrived. It is their ability to take a step away from the status, the mainstream, and to go out into the wilderness. That's why almost everyone that walks this walk has a wilderness dark night of the soul experience. To go out into the wilderness so that God can start imparting to them those things which are coming. And then the wildest proposition, they start acting it out and practicing it even before it's properly arrived. And it's not for everybody. I'm not talking to everybody in the room at this moment. I'm just talking to some of you that feel like, yeah, okay, I'm door number 3. Great. That's the one I can talk to the most. Doors 1 and 2 are great. I just don't have as much for you. But door 3 involves looking ahead to the next commission, looking ahead to what it's going to be like to be raised from the dead, a revealed son or daughter on the earth that creation has been longing and groaning to see. When I say that I'm jealous for next age things to truly be next age things, what I really mean is I am not okay. And let me define this well. I don't do mad at people. I just don't. I'm never mad at people. I get mad at ideas sometimes, but I'm not mad at people. So I'm never like seeing something or hearing a message or seeing something that someone wrote and I'm like, I'm going to just get them. You know, that's Yana's job. And I'm really glad she does it. But my job is to tackle the idea. And I'm not comfortable with ideas that play at the next age, but are really just kind of mirages that we'll use to kid ourselves without making any kind of progress. So I'm not comfortable with ideas that sound good and sound new and tickle and, and are fanciful for a while and honestly, get attention, but don't adhere to some of the basic things that will define that next age. And I do get jealous. You know what I mean by that? Jealous? I'm like, I want that for me. I don't want it counterfeited because everyone's working in their own authority, and my authority is to go by that field and to help communicate what that field is, where that treasure is, as a world is transitioning. So I'm jealous that what we talk about is actually what it is. I get jealous when we imagine the transition from one age to the next and we don't imagine a big enough change, and then I start to get jealous. I don't like the notions that, what Jesus wants is like essentially a more convenient and prosperous America where none of us have to pay taxes. But we still get to keep Walmart and PF Chang's in the movie theater. And if you go up there and you walk the halls of your home, or you go to a meeting in the New Jerusalem, which is, I'll be honest, this should just give you a sense about how vast the heavens are. I have a job in the heavens, y'all, and I know you've heard me talk about it. It's the only part of my mortal name that seems to carry over. Christopher was a saint. He ferried people across the river. That's my job. I'm the ferryman. I get to take people from one side to the other. And a few times in my spiritual resurrection life that I get to practice now, maybe 2 or 3 times I've been to the New Jerusalem. I think it was 3. On 2 occasions, it was there. It involved my job. On the last occasion, I was there to give a first fruits offering to David. But the first time I was there to take an ambassador from Jerusalem. I'm sure it was a Jew. She was a Jew. And I took her where she was supposed to go so that the law could go forth from Zion. I got to take her there. So look me up, Yana. Find me. I'll take you wherever you need to go. That's not a joke. Where was I? I'm there at the moment. Where was I here? New Jerusalem. Jealous, thank you. I'm jealous for notions that don't paint that change in the light that it's supposed to be painted in. It's an end of Isaiah change. It's an end of Micah change. It's every man living under his own vine and fig tree. It's a return to a Sabbath rest with creation itself. It is not a continuum of the direction that we are going now. And if we're guilty of anything, it's imagining too small of a change. I get jealous when we talk about even our transitions and we paint them in too small of a light. I think we expect we'll get through it more or less intact. So that so much of you carries over that you don't miss a beat. And I'm trying to tell you, when he looked at those Sadducees and said, at the resurrection, she is neither married nor given in marriage. He's saying, at the resurrection, she is not the woman those brothers knew. That's why the covenant doesn't survive the shift. She's so thoroughly changed and transformed. I liken it this way. When you see someone in their mortal form, you're looking at a blade of grass. At the resurrection, they're the field. You're just seeing one blade. At the resurrection, they put on an identity that is an immortal super identity, just like he did. And if you're looking for Christopher, you won't find him. You won't be, Yana, you can't look for this. Don't have a picture. Be like, have you seen this guy? He's probably got a ship, takes people places. I heard he'll give me a good deal because he'll probably remember me. He'll be like, no, not seen him. But there's this one guy over there, This is a terrible message if I'm wrong, because it's way too soon. If it's in the transition, then sooner or later there will be a group of people that will look and will change, even though they won't sleep. But they will change. They will metamorphose. They will go through a restructuring of who they are. I love the metaphor of the caterpillar and the butterfly. The caterpillar lives a very linear, limited, couple-dimensional life. It just goes this way, kind of on the stem this way, and it just goes munch, 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 and that's its life. until one day it's ready to change and it goes into a chrysalis, which is a grave. And it walks itself voluntarily into death. It's not suicide, folks. There's a difference. It walks itself voluntarily into the chrysalis where it emulsifies into goo. It just turns into goo. It doesn't come out of the chrysalis a caterpillar with wings. That would be kind of weird if they were just like flying around, but they were still caterpillars. And I would argue slightly scarier. But in the goo of the chrysalis, scientists have said this, not me, what starts to come out and fire up are cells that are called imaginal cells. Imaginal cells, from the word imagination. It's as if the caterpillar reimagines itself as a new creation. And when it comes out of the grave, it participates in more dimensions than it did going in. And it's more expensive. It's more preciously adorned. It has more glory. And it is higher. And what I am jealous for is that there is no conversation about this change. God help us if we're wrong. That there's no conversation about this change that has a feeling of eternal caterpillars. That's not the goal. And a casual reading of the Gospels, would tell you that his one goal was to get to the chrysalis, the grave, as quickly as possible so that he could put on his immortal resurrection body. He practically rushes himself to the grave. His ministry is pitifully short. What could that man have done with 5 or 10 more years? How much change could he have affected in the world in just 5 or 10 more years? How many more Romans could have heard his wisdom? How many more sick people could have been healed? He could have had people going out that he blew on and were already filled with the Spirit. He could have had them going out to every corner of the earth, but it wasn't his point. His point was to diagram for all of humanity what our calling really is. And it's not to be a caterpillar forever. It's to get to the chrysalis and change. And any argument to the contrary, I would say, is anti-gospels. Because he's the way. He's the truth. He's the life. And he practically runs to that grave to get into the butterfly as quickly as he possibly can, as if to say, you humans, this is the actual point. I am not here to prolong your status quo American dream. I am not here so that you will have a comfortable and convenient life. I am here because the most comfortable and convenient status quo life you can imagine is like a caterpillar walking along a leaf, just going munch, 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 but you are designed to fly. Are you following? So I get jealous. I get jealous for that next age principle. Don't undersell the change. Don't undersell what God has in mind for this next age as a continuum of what we're already doing, a continuum of the things you've come to trust in, like a movie theater or P.F. Chang's or Walmart. And some of you are like, I'm kind of ready for 2 out of 3 of those to go. But one of them I kind of like. Oh, you'll relax. It'll be great. You won't miss it. I'm jealous that, Darla, you're with me here. If correct, then the commission for the next age has everything to do with the dominion in creation, which tells me that we will become increasingly interested less in a government over our fellow man, and more in a government in nature itself. And there's no way to reestablish a connection with creation. And to me, governance is not telling it what to do. I think you guys know this. It's about a relationship with it. If we want to rule like Yeshua, Yeshua doesn't rule by force or by domination. He only rules what he knows and loves. So to me, I'm jealous of next age things. If it doesn't include a practice and an impulse to go back to creation and nature and to get to know it again, then in my mind, I'm like, I think it's great, but I don't think it's of the next age. That's how strong I feel about that. If that commission is about creation and nature itself, that it's waiting for the sons of God to be revealed, then those next agers, if part of their practice is not going back into nature to meet it anew and to develop a give and take, vulnerable love relationship with it so that we can actually step into what dominion really looks like. If it doesn't include that factor, then to me, and this is not a bad thing, to me, it's just not door number 3, but it's still good. It's just 1 or 2, which are valid calls. And I would never come against them. But it's just not my job. Are you following what I'm saying? And I know I'm not talking to everyone in the room right now. Some of you are like, dude, I'm totally 1 or 2. Then please don't get offended. I'm not mad. I'm not. Just don't call it next age. But be comfortable doing what you're supposed to do. But don't muddy the water or lower the expectation by calling the things of the previous age the things that are new. Are y'all still there? Once again, I need you to know I love you all, and I'm not mad at anybody. I'm not. I just get mad at ideas. If that next age is a resurrection experience, and if that next age is a dominion in creation, then those 2 things should mark the people that are buying the field behind door number 3. They should be centered on what is going on with them and the Lord in the heavenly places, because they are looking into the eternal things, which Paul told everybody to do, but we're not going to go there. We're looking into that. And they should also be attuning themselves to nature itself. Are you good? Do I have to be right about this? Nope. Did God ask me to be the authority on the next age? No, he did not. I'm taking a lot of license right now. I am not. He never told me I was. What I am is a jealous man. So I'm going to guard it. I'm going to guard the door a little bit. Lastly, I'll say that everything that I just said about the resurrection life and the daring proposition of apprehending it now, and the focus on creation itself and a governance there, has everything to do with what Yana and Darla have been talking about. There will be multiple different kinds of witnesses in those last days. And Yana, I feel like you could have said so much more than you said about survivors and martyrs and 144,000. I think there's a lot more there. I was kind of like, I could hear more about this. I think maybe we ought to just do some more over the table or something like that. We'll let you know what she says, I'll tell you. But one of those witnesses, even to the Jewish people, and I'm telling you, I'm with that 100%. If you want to know where I stand, I've been there since Art Katz changed my life back in around 2001. One of those witnesses will be people that are putting on the resurrection of the dead, because all they're doing is showing the Jews and the Christians and everybody else, this is what the dominion of man looks like. And that dominion of man is to be shared by those 2 houses as one. All you're doing is like a bunch of Essenes. You're just out in the countryside a little bit, saying to the rest of the world, this is what's coming looks like. And that's why I'm jealous for it. I want to tell you one story. What's my time like? Shannon she left the clock. There's no time. Man, if Shannon's not here with her iPad that has the clock on it that tells you how much time you have, that's dangerous, okay? I have 5 minutes. Okay, really, 5? I have 5? I have 5? That's 15. That's 30. Do I hear another 5? No, I'm just-
6 tomorrow morning.
Right. I don't do that. Nancy does, okay? I've got about 10 in me tops, and I'm like, I'm done, I got 10. Okay. All right, listen, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to tell you one story, okay? This is as much, Mary talks about my life in the heavens is like Narnia, and it is. It is a creation restored. So I'm going to tell you a good Narnia story. I did meet an angel in my journeys in the heavens. And when I first saw him, he piqued my interest. My mythological nerd that's in me really came out pretty quickly. And I thought, you look like someone that I know from mythology. But of course, you're not the fallen pagan version. But he was this wild-looking spiritual being, green laurel crown, very earthy, brown and green, and off-white robes. And he was a mover and a dancer, and all of these kind of exotic creatures like tigers and leopards would always be around him. And the Narnia people, the fauns and the nymphs and the satyrs, and all those that C.S. Lewis didn't have a problem talking about, they would all accompany him in these vast processions, and vines would grow wherever he went with giant grape clusters that would just seem to burst. And when I met him, I thought, you look a lot like a version of that old pagan spiritual being known as Bacchus, the god of wine and merrymaking, and good friend of Yana. Wine and merrymaking and marriages and weddings, and even resurrection. His name was known as the Liberator, the one who makes free, and the Resurrector. And I met him. And of course, he wasn't, now the pagan Bacchus, like all spiritual beings that fell, they became the vice to the virtue that they once were. So we're the original spiritual being that personified the wine and liberation, freedom, and resurrection, and like new life, and weddings and ceremonies, and all these triumphal processions, all these things. When that spiritual being fell, he became the vice to the virtues. So he became drunkenness and orgiastic meetings, and he became excess. He became all of those vices when he walked away from the source. And that's the one that my pagan ancestors saw. Now, I'll be honest, I've thought this about my pagan ancestors quite a bit. Their problem was not that they couldn't see accurately. Their problem was that they picked the wrong team. Their worldview is never questioned, even by the Messiah. So he's there. The spiritual being exists. And here I am meeting one that looked like he never fell, like he's honoring Messiah. C.S. Lewis beat me to it. He found this one before I did. And he wrote him into the Chronicles of Narnia. He wrote him into Book 4. Book 4 is Prince Caspian. Narnia as a land has fallen into a sleep called the scientific revolution. And the trees don't talk and the animals don't talk because things have become industrialized. Our minds have become industrialized. And so the connection between the spiritual voice and nature has left, and Lewis wrote it into Book 4. And when Aslan, the Christ lion, comes back into Narnia to wake it up, to reestablish what Narnia is, to bring the voice back to the trees and the voice back to the animals, he's not alone. Lewis writes into the story that he is accompanied by none other than Bacchus. And Aslan is tromping through the forests of Narnia, and Bacchus is there, and the vines are growing, and they're destroying the industrialization of man, and they're freeing the kids from compulsory education. And all of these things are happening. And the retinue of Bacchus with the exotic animals and the forest nymphs and the fawns and the satyrs, they're all coming to the tune of this Pied Piper, Bacchus, and he's running through Narnia and waking it up. And Lucy's there, and I always feel like Lewis writes himself into Lucy. And so Lucy is there, and she says to whoever's with her, she goes, I think I'd be a little bit more afraid of Bacchus and his forest nymphs if Aslan weren't here. But Lewis beat me to it. I have no doubt that when the Messiah was in his earthly ministry, he was constantly being attended to by angels. They're helping him at every turn. And hear me out here. At least one of them that he was close to was the holy and original version of the angel that personified wine and weddings and freedom. Because where does the Lord do his first miracle? At a wedding. What's he do? He turns water into wine. When he goes and he wakes people up and he sets people free and he raises the dead, these are all Bacchus-like moves. And don't worry, I'm not saying that Yeshua's Bacchus. I'm not even saying that Yeshua got his power from Bacchus. I'm not saying any of those things. I'm simply saying God designed humans to be attended to by the angelic world, which is the world of nature and creation. And there were specific parts of nature and creation that were constantly flooding the Messiah and glorifying him even when he's in his ministry. And I guarantee you one of them was a holy and original righteous spiritual being that personified wine, weddings, triumphal entries and processions, and freedom and liberation and resurrection. And I met at least one of that kind. I'm not saying I met the one that was friends with Jesus. That seems a little presumptuous, and I don't think he was. But I met one of those kinds of angels in my journeys, and I knew we were going to hit it off because he's my kind of guy. And I learned to work with them just like I've learned to work with the ones that have gotten close to me, and I've gotten close to them. And I try every day to not use them, but just to create a relational environment where I go, I want to know you because you're good. Because the Father doesn't use you. The Father doesn't know you by a number. Angel 234 needs you to go do something. Christopher's about to talk, clearly doesn't know what he's doing. He knows them by a name, and he loves them. So I want to know them by a name, and I want to love them because I am the image of my Father. So we got to know each other well. And at the time I was teaching high school, and I found he was such a great friend when I was teaching high school, because I would go into my classroom early, and I would close these eyes, and I would open these eyes. I would put on the cloak of my immortality. I wouldn't be Christopher in those wee hours of the morning before students got there. I would be the resurrection of me, that immortal, more expensive version of me that is a seed in the spirit right here for now. And I would invite my friend in, whom I knew by the name Arden, A-R-D-E-N. It just means great forest. And Arden would come into my room, and I would sing his poem that he taught me. And I would literally make invocation, and I'm calling things from the spiritual realm into this world of incarnation. Arden would come in. If Lewis did it, I get at least one pass. Arden would come into my room, and he would dance with his retinue of creatures, and the vines would grow over my room that I would see with the eyes of my heart, and the clusters of grapes would be about to burst, and my students would start to come in under the influence of these Lydian airs. And on those days that I would get there early and just be with my friend, Arden, my students would ask the craziest questions. And I got away with so much. I took on my friends' attendance that he was giving to me. He was pouring into me because that's what the angelic world is supposed to do with the sons. He's giving the power that I've given him back into me and causing me to be raised up. So here I am taking on the role of the Pied Piper. Follow me, kids. Out of this status quo and your moral understanding of the gospel and into what the gospel really is, which is of another world and of a new creation. And I spent my Thursdays, if my kids were good, especially in philosophy class, we would do imagination exercises because I kind of wanted to keep my job. And I'd open the eyes of their heart and they would meet the Messiah. And the fruit was so good that no administrator, no staff, no parent ever said one word because their kids were being altered before their eyes. I had students that organized a cell phone fast, social media and cell phone fast. I didn't tell them. I had students that were participating with Heaven every day. I didn't know they were doing it. I taught them. I thought they were just doing it on Thursdays. They come to me at one point. They said, Mr. Carter, so we've been doing this every day? And I was like, crap. And they said, so we were up there last night and the up here, and we actually had a conversation. And when we met at school this morning, we remembered it. What do we do with that? And I was like, I don't know. It really doesn't happen. Just keep it up. I don't know. And one of my kids said to me, Mr. Carter, I taught him philosophy, so we were out around a picnic table because stick it to the man and have class outside. And so we were out around the picnic table having philosophy, and one of my students, valedictorian, one of the other guys, they were there, guys that were doing this every day. And he said, Mr. Carter, we don't know how you do it. How do you come here every day and smile? How are you not depressed? Because we've seen the up here. And we know how different it is from here. How do you do this every day, doing what you do? And I was like, boys, you just figured it out. You just figured it out. You are not here to satisfy your every woman desire and to be satisfied. If you are satisfied here, something is terribly wrong. You have seen the up here, and now you know your job is to find out what is the part of the up here you are specifically called to bring down here? And how many other eyes can you open up in the process? I didn't know this until this past summer, just a few months ago, that one of my students had gone home and taught his entire family how to open the eyes of their heart. I just found that out, in June. And I was like, what? And he said, yeah, because the guy that was telling me was we were telling them about it, and the parents were like, oh, yeah, we know. Our senior, when he was taught by Mr. Carter in philosophy, came home and told us all how to do this. But I didn't do it on my own. I know the Holy Spirit's involved, but I also know that if I'm stepping into the next age, then my spiritual life is going to include a participation with nature, with creation itself, where I am allowing it to live and it is pouring back into me with what it has to cause me to raise up into the image in which I was created. Now listen, I told you that story. Here I am closing. I told you that story because it had a little resurrection moment in it. It wasn't me. I'd put it on. It had a little nature moment in it. It was talking with part of creation. It also was miraculous and mundane. It was in a school, in a philosophy class, on a random Thursday morning. But it was as heavenly and as supernatural as anything has ever been. Feel free. The Lord's not offering any of this because the angels can do things that he can't. This isn't happening because there's things that Yeshua can't do or won't do, and he needs the angels to do it, and he needs nature to do it. And he's got his hands tied until we get on that picture. That is not what's happening on any level. He is enough. He will always be enough. He is the one through whom everything was made, and he's the one that it was all made for. He will always be enough. All he's doing is inviting us into his world. That's it. He doesn't need any of it. He's just saying, kids, I think it's time you see more of what I do. Here's what it's like when I'm up here. And here's what it's like when I was down there. Why don't you come into my world and experience it a little bit more how I experience it? I think that's as good as note as any to end. Now, what I think is supposed to happen is there's going to be some worship at some point, right? And there's going to be some time in the heavens. Am I allowed to do that as a way to get us just into that worship time? Yes. I am like 40% here right now. Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah. All right. So I don't think I could if I wanted to. Yeah. You want to bring them up and. Yeah. This is a terrible time for a joke, so I won't tell one. By the way, while they're conferring, if you want to know with some of the artwork that's back there, the things that I've directly seen, some of the angels that are depicted in those artworks that's tied to the planets, come find me and I'll tell you. There's some of those back there that I know really well. So am I allowed, Mary? Okay, wait. At the same time? You first. You introduce this, then I do. Okay, great. I'm in.
Can this be moved out of the way?
Yeah.
Okay, Wesley. So stay in this place, because we're going to go into worship, and Christopher is going to help you with the eyes of your heart to see these realms. And during this time of engaging heaven and worshiping, you also get to come up and put whatever is in your heart upon this tallit. And those of you who would like to do a little something with your credit card, hold me up, Lynn is at my product table back there. You can swipe your card, tell her an amount. She will give you a piece of paper with that amount that you can come bring it and set it here to participate up here from doing it that way. If you want to do it PayPal, Rich wrote it over there. The PayPal address is aliveinthekingdom7@gmail.com. And if you have your own little piece of paper, you can write that out, whatever it was, PayPal, to put it up here. And if you want to do a check, Alive in the Kingdom. And this is nonprofit. This we did it that way so we can just give it and not have a chunk go to taxes, that we can bless and pour into what is being poured out. So my one request is that you be very respectful. Don't push me. And not stand, not accidentally step upon my tallit. And you can kneel down here, you can take your time, and you can go into the heavenlies and be in that place as Christopher is able to function there as much as he is here. You can function in the heavenlies to come place your gift. All righty.
Yeah, go ahead and play as loud as you want to, Laura. I'm just going to tell you, why don't we all just stand together while we can start this process of spending some time with the Lord in the heavens while offering is taking place. You can do both. I think it's a great idea to do both. So you know what to do. Whether or not you're going to use this as a tool in your tool belt, or if you're going to buy the whole field and figure out what's on door number 3, or if you're going to be someplace in the middle, one is not better than the other. You can use it like a tool in your tool belt right now. That would be just fine. But take a moment to really practice. Open the eyes of your heart and just ask yourself, Lord, Messiah, Yeshua, where are you in the room with us right now? And what's your first impression? Shout it out in front of you. You're allowed to guess, and I don't want you to grade your picture as good or bad. I just want you to give it a guess. Give me a few more. Shout them out. Where do you see the Lord in the room? Hovering above us. Right behind me. That's kind of, so I'm like right there. How's he look? Is he modern, ancient, something in between? I think I heard some ancients. Look at him and just go, Lord, what's on your mind right now? What's your first impression? What's he say? Y'all can answer too. I'll put it in here. What's on his mind right now? I heard joy. To walk out your destiny. The field he purchased. He's happy. It's time. Yeah, y'all feel free. Don't stand on ceremony. We're not in a program. You want to walk up and do offering time, you can do that. You want to spend time in the heavens, you can do that. Both are happening right now. I think it's always helpful to look at him and tell him that you want him to be your king. I think it's always helpful to look at him and say, I actually know that you're real, so you must be somewhere. And you have a body. And you did say, touch me. And I think it's always helpful to go, Lord, what's one thing from you you want me to walk away with tonight? Just give me one. Sometimes it's too much to go for 10. What's one thing you want me to walk away with tonight? You shout it out. Your identity. You're chosen. What else does he tell you? What was that? Like? Keep going. What's one thing he wants you to walk away with tonight? Your purpose. You saw a mountain of gold, a mountain of glory. How much he loves you. This is your time. You're ready. It's possible. Come closer and keep pursuing. Transformed. It's finished. Lean in. I think I heard that. Step in. This is reality. Any others? Now's your chance. What's one thing he wants you to walk away from this place with tonight? Confident that he has us. What was over here? Wait and see. Kingship. Now, wherever you are with them, gratitude opens up so many doors in the heavens. It may be the undiscovered gift that God gave to man. So wherever you are, just be thankful. Are you thankful he's alive? Tell him. Are you thankful that he lived here as a mortal? Tell him. Are you thankful that he rushed himself to the chrysalis? Tell him. Are you thankful that he's the firstborn of the resurrection? Tell him. Are you thankful he has a plan for you? Tell him. Are you thankful that he's preparing a place for you? Tell him. Are you thankful that he says, do you want to see it? Tell him. Are you thankful when he shows you your face in a mirror and you see that you're not you, but you're a resurrection, an immortal son or daughter? You should tell him, thank you for that.
I am deconstructing you. You are remembering. You are remembering truth. I am deconstructing. the fear, the doubting. Do you know I'm good in the waiting, in the fear, and the doubting. Do you know in the waiting, in the fear, and the doubting? Do you believe in my goodness? I'm a good, good father. Yes, child, I believe in you. Yes, child, I believe in you and what I sent you here to do. In the middle of the night, when you hear my voice, do you trust that I am good? When I'm deconstructing everything around you, everything around you, everything around you, am I still good? I am your full supply. My table is set for your child. Get rid of the orphan mind. And in rest I will father you. So just rest. Ooh, ooh, just rest. Enter into my rest. Lay back, lay back, lay back into my rest. It's a trust fall. It's a trust fall, child. It's a trust fall. It's a trust fall, child. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
I pray for all of this, all of us, that this will be the door we choose. If you stepped in today and this felt alive and wrapped in Yeshua's love, that when you go out those doors, you stay knowing you're seated in the heavenlies, and that resurrection body that is you, because you're in more than one place at a time, that you take that resurrection life and engage it, as Christopher so beautifully painted for all of us and invited all of us in. Thank you for blessing this work. Thank you for being here this day and being so fully engaged. We just honor your engagement with Yeshua. So doors will open at 9 in the morning, and we will start back at 10 tomorrow. And I believe our ending time is around 1:30 tomorrow. And any of you who have long drives and flights and we won't see you, I just want to thank you again for being here. It has been an honor. And for those of you who get to be back tomorrow, there's more on the table coming from our beloved Nancy Cohen. Amen and amen.